This video is brought to you by Squarespace.
Last time on Dragon Ball Z, the Emperor Frieza has ruled over planet Vegeta with a firm fist for many years, but an unrelenting fear of the Super Saiyan legends have caused him to make the decision to kill the entire Saiyan race. Frieza has commanded all the Saiyans to return to planet Vegeta within the month, and slowly dozens of Saiyans pour into the planet. Bardock's planet squad, made up of Leek, Fasha, Borgos, Shugesh, Tora, and Bardock himself. While out on a mission, Bardock and Leek receive the call to return to Vegeta, to which they quickly comply. However, the rest of the squad does not receive the call. As they finish another simple mission, Tora gets a bad feeling at his core. What will become of these warriors? The Saiyans live on now. Mission: make a new legend. What if Bardock's squad survived?
Tora looked alarmed as he clicked on his scouter. Fasha slowly approached him, but her eyes widened when she heard the conversation.
Because of the order to return home, Bardock and I are on our way to planet Vegeta. What about you guys?
Order to return home? Wait a minute, we haven't been told about that.
That's because all of you are about to get killed.
Shugesh spun his head to look at the speaker. Dodoria, one of Frieza's highest-ranking men and someone who had a particular disdain for Bardock and his squad after they proved themselves to be a capable team. Tora's scouter shut off right then. Radio silence. Tora hoped that whatever was happening, that Bardock would be able to figure it out and escape. Shugesh taunted Dodoria, but Fasha told him to stand down. Borgos quietly looked over at Tora, and they both nodded. They tried to reason with the soldier, but before they knew it, they were being attacked. The Saiyans tried to hold their own, but Dodoria was too powerful. If only the moon was out. Tora knew they would not be able to win. They needed to escape. Quickly, Fasha blasted at Dodoria's men, taking out their scouters. Dodoria rushed in to attack, but Tora saved her, grabbing her and blasting off. The other followed suit. Borgos turned around to rain down a flurry of ki bullets, escaping away as the ki fell on the soldiers. By the time the smoke cleared, they were gone. Dodoria cursed under his breath. Without scouters, they would have a hard time finding them. Tora and his men quickly found their own ship, destroyed. How could this happen? How could they escape? Well, how did Dodoria get there? Not far from there sat Dodoria's ship, and they ran in to steal it. They knew they couldn't return to planet Vegeta though. They simply blasted off. They'd have to figure it out later. Dodoria and his men watched as the ship zoomed out into the distance. The pink alien squinted, but before he could speak, the ship was blasted by one of his men.
Stop! Stop, you idiot! That's our ship! We have to go! It's gone! I'm sure Lord Frieza will come here soon! Damn Saiyans!
Inside the ship, they felt a great tumble as they were shot. Though the ship was not destroyed and could still fly, it wouldn't take long before the damage left them stranded. They had to travel to a planet, any planet, where they could live at least until the ship was repaired. No doubt Frieza could track it, if they found out about Dodoria. They had enough food for a few weeks' travels, but their battle against Dodoria left them with extreme wounds. By the final day, all of them were unconscious. The ship began to malfunction, until finally hurling down to a nearby planet. Tora woke up and tried to steer the ship, but all he could do was crash it onto the water. Then, nothing. He blacked out. It could have been a few minutes or even months, but the Saiyans woke up in a room, laying down in beds. They looked around, but only noticed that they were healed. Shugesh joked about having died, to which Fasha punched him in the arm. A small green kid ran inside with water. Shugesh instantly jumped in and grabbed him up, and asked who the hell he was. The others just watched, until he was told that it was enough. He let the kid down. He was shaking. But another green being walked in. Muri, the village leader.
Ah, I see you're awake. Sorry about the little one. He was just trying to help, not scare you.
What's going on here?
I am the elder of this village, and I welcome you to planet Namek. I do not know what you are running from, but we are glad to have helped you. Your ship is outside, though badly damaged, but we can do what we can.
Fasha's got it. She knows her way around ships. Either way, why are you helping us?
You're our guest. Make yourself comfortable.
As he left, the Saiyans were left dazed and confused. They discussed things, and agreed that while they could probably easily take over the planet, it was better to keep calm while the ship was being repaired. Either way, they didn't know if these creatures were dangerous. If they were weak, then know that Frieza would have made efforts to take them over already. Shugesh, however, protested against staying and not taking over. What Shugesh didn't know was a conversation Tora and Bardock had, some time before he left.
Once we return, I think I'll take a break, you know? Come on now, we're soldiers! Have you ever wondered what it would be like if we just stopped? At least for a while. To build something rather than destroy it. I haven't. We're Saiyans. Huh, right. Whatever. Come on, Tora. We gotta do this last mission. Last? Bardock? Hurry up.
Thus, Shugesh and Tora would often clash heads. Their shattered battle armors had to be reinforced by wearing other pieces of Namekian clothing. It was sad, but they knew they would have to slowly shed away their Saiyan pride and find a new home. However, as the months went by and the Saiyans began to settle little by little on Namek, they began to enjoy it. Borgos in particular. Tora liked the people but didn't want to stay on the planet, while Fasha hated the people but loved the land. Shugesh, on the other hand...
Tora, we could... It's not that we could or not, it's that we shouldn't. We don't want to alert Frieza, it's too risky. They know the power levels they're looking for. If we give ourselves away, we're doomed.
Don't lie to me, this isn't about us, it's about them. They've made you soft. Look at Fasha. She's out there watching the giant crabs fight. In the olden days, we'd have killed them all and eaten them by now.
Stand down, Shugesh. That's an order. These people have fed and healed us. We will leave and that will be the end of it.
Don't you give me orders. You're a weak Saiyan, a poor leader, and definitely no Bardock.
Tora gulped and looked over at the horizon. Bardock. He wondered if he was still alive. Either way, that was very uncharitable of Shugesh. The teammate realized so and just stormed away. The Saiyans were getting restless. All the food they had to eat was plants, and if they wanted to get any meat, they would have to hunt them down. Never did Fasha think she'd miss Ginyu, who was one of the many butchers of planet Vegeta, and once their teammate. She had married Bardock, closing off a sort of love triangle he had, although it was brief enough for Fasha to dismiss and just forget about it. Either way, knowing Ginyu definitely helped her in finding and getting good meat, but the Saiyans hadn't fought in many months. They were getting restless, fighting amongst themselves more and more. After another altercation between Tora and Shugesh about taking over the planet, Shugesh stormed off, and they didn't see him for another few weeks, unless it was to eat. He wouldn't speak to anyone. Fasha repaired the ship, and deactivated any tracking that would have helped Frieza find them. However, not all was well. We'll be right back with this Dragon Ball What If. And we're back with this Dragon Ball What If. That same day, the Saiyans, who had a small Namekian home on the outskirts of the village, felt a great disturbance while sleeping. The usually green sky was dark, and they could smell smoke coming from miles away. Quickly, they rushed to find Muri's village, where they found Shugesh firing at various houses. Some Namekians laid unconscious on the ground, and Muri pleaded with Shugesh to stop. But just as the Saiyan was about to kill the Elder, Borgos landed a strong kick against Shugesh, sending him flying off.
Please, you're not here to continue hurting us, are you? Of course not. What the hell is going on? He just attacked us for no reason. I must try and heal my brethren. Please protect us. Reinforcements should be here any second. Reinforcements? Shugesh can't take all three of...
Tora was hit by a powerful blast that exploded and sent Tora, Fasha, and Borgos flying off.
Don't you see, Tora? These weaklings can't stand up against us. This will be our planet. A new Saiyan planet just for us.
What the hell is wrong with you? We agreed to leave them alone in exchange for help with the ship and food.
We don't want Frieza to find us. Why? Because you think we can't take him on? Don't you understand, Tora? I've been training for weeks now. I could easily take on Frieza. This is what Bardock would want.
Bardock was tired of this life, don't you get it? He saw what was happening ahead of us. He told us this life of destruction would be our undoing.
You idiots, stand down or we'll have to fight you. He was wrong. I'd like to see you try, brother.
Tora rushed in first, followed by his two comrades. The battle began, and to their surprise, Shugesh was much more powerful than before. So that's what he had been doing, training. Without their scouters, they couldn't tell anything was off. They just couldn't keep up with him. They could only imagine his power as an Ozaru. But as Fasha and Tora were pushed aside, Borgos was the only one standing in Shugesh's way. He wouldn't let him take another step, but Shugesh ignored it, rushing to attack Borgos. However, a huge flash of light blinded everyone. Shugesh was defeated, with his eyes just barely open, looking at his enemy. Who could it have been?
Mori, get everyone healed. I will take them to the Grand Elder.
Nail,
Thank goodness, thank you!
The Saiyans looked up and saw the tall Namekian with a vest on. They couldn't read his power level, but could tell he was powerful. Without even bothering to let Muri heal them, Nail threw Shugesh over his shoulder and told the others to follow him. They reached the Grand Elder's place, where the giant Namekian sat peacefully. The Saiyans were to be judged by the Grand Elder. Shugesh, who finally regained consciousness, had calmed down. He argued that Tora and the others had done nothing wrong, but Tora stepped up.
Please don't kill him.
Kill him?
Isn't that what you're planning on doing? Killing us? Take me alone. Leave the others to live here. They haven't done anything wrong.
You come from a very violent civilization, young one. We have exiled many for crimes, but killing is something we only resort to under a dire need. I will not kill any of you. In fact, I welcome you to stay. You defended the village and saved many, even going against your teammate. Him, however.
I'm just glad you're leaving them alone. Do whatever you want with me. Watch your tongue. What are you gonna do about it, slug boy?
Enough! For having attacked our people, you are forbidden from living on Namek. Sorry, Fasha. I know you worked hard on the ship, but Shugesh will need it to leave.
Fine, whatever.
Thank you for our lives, sir.
I do have one more part of the punishment. Shugesh, go out and reflect on destruction, on pain, on yourself. You will find others who are looking for a new path as well, I'm sure.
Whatever that means, I'll see my way off this rock.
The Saiyans said their goodbyes to their friend, who, though upset, did feel heartbroken for having to leave their friends. Tora rephrased what Bardock had said before, and Shugesh took it to heart this time. His anger and lust for battle made him lose his friends. Maybe it was time to think things through. Thus, Shugesh left. Fasha and the others were fine with living on Namek for longer, so the ship wasn't the biggest loss. Shugesh would begin traveling through the universe, dodging both the Galactic Patrol and the Frieza Force. Through his travels, he would run into various creatures and warriors, all of whom had problems and needed help. Shugesh, trying to see the way Bardock did, tried to help these people. It was hard at first, and he messed up many times by just trying to blow things up, but he got better and slowly gathered allies, who joined him on his ship and travel through the universe. With their help, he was actually able to liberate a Frieza Force planet. But if you want to see that story, let me know in the comments. I have some stuff planned for that, but only if people want to see it. It could be fun. Either way, Shugesh had many adventures to many different planets, even some familiar ones. But the worst of it was yet to come, as he ran into a strange wizard. Meanwhile, after knowing Nail, Fasha would constantly annoy him, challenging him to fights. She thought he was quite attractive, but above that, he was the first person she could fight and not get bored with. Nail mostly refused to fight, but sometimes humored her. She was very disappointed to find out that Namekians were all asexual, and she quickly gave up. Eventually though, the Grand Elder told Nail to train with the Saiyans a little more. He ended up taking on the role of a master to them, and grew stronger and stronger as a result as well. The Saiyans learned to love Namek slowly. Eventually, the Grand Elder saw their potential and admired it. Maybe they would be good candidates to get their power unleashed. Maybe. Many years passed, and Borgos helped some Namekians plant their crops, while Fasha trained with some warrior clan members. But both of their spines went cold once they saw a shadow loom over them. Lord Frieza had arrived on planet Namek. I hope you're enjoying today's Dragon Ball What If story. Be sure to click the link in the description below for 10% off your first purchase over at Squarespace. Squarespace allows you to connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated, members-only content, manage your memberships, send email communications, and leverage audience insights, all on one easy-to-use platform. Creating a healthy community is imperative to a good website, and Squarespace allows for threaded comments, replies, and likes. There are even third-party extensions for e-commerce, from inventory to product promotion, and streamlined bookkeeping. Squarespace is a great way to centralize all your website needs. So go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/SmugStick to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Anyways, back to the story. Fasha and Borgos look on in shock as the Frieza mothership appears in the distance. They both can sense that not only Zarbon and Dodoria are there, but also Frieza himself. They are momentarily paralyzed in fear, but Borgos quickly escorts the villagers away to a safe hiding place, while Fasha, a few Namekian warriors, and Muri stay behind to meet the incoming Frieza. Meanwhile, Tora is meditating in another village when suddenly awakens Frieza. He can sense his enormous ki so he had finally come. Tora curses under his breath for being so foolish as to think that he and his friends could just hide from Frieza forever. Tora starts to tell the village elder, Tsuno, along with the villagers, they need to evacuate to a safe place when he gets stopped by an unknown figure. Back in Mori's village, Frieza, Zarbon, and Dodoria arrive. Immediately, Dodoria recognizes Fasha as one of the Saiyans that tricked him many years ago and stole his ship. Zarbon laughs, mocking him for getting outsmarted by a low-class Saiyan. Before Dodoria and Zarbon can continue arguing, Frieza tells them to be quiet. Mori asks them why they have come here, as Frieza reveals that he's here to collect their Dragon Balls. Fasha is surprised to hear this. She assumed that Frieza came here to kill her and her comrades. Frieza asks Mori if he knows where the Dragon Balls may be. Mori declines. But the Emperor chuckles. One way or another, he will find these wish orbs. In the original, Frieza killed Cargo, Dende's brother, in order to show Mori that he was deadly serious about whatever it takes to learn the location of the Dragon Balls. However, in this story, none of the villagers, except for Namekian warriors and Fasha, have stayed behind. So Dende and Cargo are safe. Fasha steps up, telling the tyrant that he needs to get the hell off the planet, which amuses Frieza. He tells Dodoria to come up and remind her just how terrifying he can be. Dodoria cracks his knuckles and goes right in to fight Fasha. Although Dodoria is quite strong in his own right, Fasha has gotten much more powerful over the years of training with Nail and her comrades for so long. Even so, Dodoria is still slightly stronger than her. As Dodoria goes in for a sucker punch, the other Namekian warriors intervene to even the odds. Just like Fasha, these warrior Namekians have also gotten stronger thanks to their training with the Saiyans. During the battle, Mori notices that these enemies seem to use scouters to communicate between each other and find their power. So him and the other warriors destroy the scouters. Seeing Dodoria now struggling against the combatants, Frieza asks Zarbon to lend a hand, despite Dodoria's protests. Zarbon jumps in and, with his help, him and Dodoria quickly turn the tables on the warriors. They kill the Namekian fighters, as Frieza fires a death beam towards Mori. Before he dies, he tells Fasha that the fate of their people is now in their hands. The lieutenants are about to finish off Fasha, when out of nowhere, a raging Gohan blasts away both Zarbon and Dodoria with a single Masenko. Gohan picks up the injured Fasha as they retreat with Krillin, with Dodoria chasing after them, and Frieza searching the village with his men. Zarbon finds the Dragon Ball. It's revealed that one of the soldiers, Cranberry, had hidden himself after seeing the terrifying power of the Namekians and Fasha. As a result, he still has one functional scouter. Back with Tora, it's revealed that the figure that had arrived earlier was Vegeta. Tora kneels before him, calling him King Vegeta, but Vegeta tells him to stand back up, saying that the Saiyan warrior race, along with his father, have been wiped out by an asteroid many years ago. Vegeta says that he's surprised to find another Saiyan in another backwater planet, although it's refreshing to see a low-class Saiyan actually know his place. Earlier, when Vegeta had landed on planet Namek, he was able to sense the key of not only the Namekians and Frieza soldiers, but also a familiar key of other Saiyans. This is why Vegeta went to this village before confronting the rest of the Frieza force. Kui was about to intercept Vegeta at the time, but notices that he's heading somewhere in a hurry. He decides to instead follow behind him to see where Vegeta is running off to. Vegeta asks Tora where he could find the Dragon Balls, but the other Saiyan gets quiet. When Vegeta commands him to speak up, Tora stands up and says that the Dragon Balls are only given to those who complete several trials to test their character. Vegeta scoffs, saying that they don't have time for any idiotic trials, since Frieza is on this planet as well. Vegeta threatens Tora, telling him that if he won't tell him where the Dragon Balls are, then he'll simply beat it out of him and the other villagers. In a single motion, Vegeta fires a beam towards a Namekian, but Tora intercepts it, smacking the blast away, surprising Vegeta. Defiantly, Tora states that if Vegeta wants to attack the Namekians, he'll have to go through him first. The prince smirks. In a matter of months, he has run into two low-class Saiyans who dare defy their prince. Vegeta and Tora fight. Gohan and Krillin carry out an injured Fasha as they attempt to escape the enraged Dodoria. Thanks to the solar flare from Krillin, the group was able to hide by lowering their power levels. After blasting the nearby islands, Dodoria assumes that they're dead and leaves. Fasha immediately gets off of Krillin and Gohan as the two remark about how odd it is that she knows how to lower her ki. Then they notice a tail. She's a Saiyan, just like Vegeta. This causes Fasha to go from annoyed to shocked. These punks know about the Saiyans. Fasha keeps her questions to herself for now, and she tells tells the two that she needs to head back to Borgos and the other villagers to make sure that they're safe. However, she's too injured to fly on her own. Reluctantly, she asks Gohan and Krillin for their help in taking her to her friends, but not before threatening to kill them if they ever try to betray her, which makes them both nervous and scared. Fasha tells the two where to go as they travel to a cave far away from the Namekian villagers. There, Fasha, Gohan, and Krillin arrive. As Dende heals Fasha, she tells Borgos that Murray and the Namekian warriors from the village have died, which saddens everyone, especially Borgos. Fasha explains that she'd be dead right now if it wasn't for these two strangers. Gohan and Krillin introduce themselves and tell everyone who they are and why they're here. Borgos and Fasha look at each other. This kid, he's a half Saiyan and from Earth? That planet sounds familiar. He couldn't be. Could he? Fasha has finished being healed. She stretches a bit and gets a massive Senkai boost. Her power is now a little more incredible than before. It's so much so that for a moment, she wasn't able to hide her ki. Dende and Karu ask her what she's going to do now that she gets to their eye level. She puts a hand on their heads and tells the siblings that she'll make sure that these bad guys are taken out and taken care of. She turns to the group, telling them that she's heading out to hunt down Dodoria, Zarbon, and Frieza. She asks Borgos if she's coming along for the hunt, but he declines, saying that someone needs to stay behind and protect the Namekians. Krillin says he can tag along, and an annoyed Fasha begrudgingly accepts. Fasha and Krillin agree to leave the cave as Gohan stays behind with Borgos and the Namekians. At Frieza's ship, Frieza and Zarbon discuss their plans when Dodoria reappears triumphantly, gloating that he was able to take out the Saiyan woman and her two saviors. Before Dodoria and Zarbon can begin another argument, Cranberry enters the room, revealing that he still has a scouter. Frieza congratulates him on keeping their last remaining scouter safe, as he orders him to leave it behind. Cranberry does so, and Frieza begins to test it out. At this point, the scouter is able to detect two power levels flying, both around 18,000. Frieza believes this to be Qui fighting Vegeta, and thinks that the fight could go either way. The scouter is also briefly able to detect Fasha's soaring ki, which completely surprises Frieza. To think there would be such a strong warrior on this planet, Frieza gives the scouter to Zarbon and orders him and Dodoria to take down whoever that is. As Fasha and Krillin fly out, they sense two huge power levels heading towards them, Zarbon and Dodoria. The two land on a nearby island, while Zarbon checks the scouter, noticing that it picked up another energy, Dende, from the same coordinates as the previous energy reading. Zarbon and Dodoria land on the same island as Fasha and Krillin. They stare down a confident Fasha and a nervous Krillin. Zarbon teases Dodoria, joking that he didn't seem to have killed them properly, like he said, which annoys Dodoria. The brute says that he'll have no problem making sure that they're killed for good this time, and he cracks his knuckles. Fasha responds by saying that she's ready for anything now, but Zarbon ignores it, saying that he noticed another power level coming this way, and that he's going to investigate. Fasha and Krillin lunge at Zarbon, preventing him from leaving, but Dodoria gets in the way of both by performing a double lariat. Zarbon quickly flies off to the location registered on the scouter. Meanwhile, Vegeta and Tora's fight continues. Vegeta tried to attack any Namekians he could, but Tora was able to intercept the attacks at every turn. Vegeta is starting to get angry. Was this low-class Saiyan toying with them? It was almost like a repeat of his battle with Kakarot. The Namekians are able to escape as an angry Vegeta asks Tora just how he was able to get this strong. Tora simply replies that he used to be like him, but he learned to appreciate life, training, and fighting for something other than death and destruction. This allowed him to become much stronger than he ever was before. It's at this point where Qui arrives, with Vegeta spitting on the floor, saying out loud that he was wondering how long it would take for him to show his face. Qui asks the prince if he needs any help with his rogue Saiyan, as Vegeta thinks to himself before smirking. He accepts his offer, but only because he wants to see just how strong the Saiyan truly is. Qui and Vegeta launch themselves at Tora, and they're surprised to see that this enemy Saiyan is still able to keep up with them. Tora smiles as he says that it's time he takes this fight a little more seriously, even with Qui attempting to use his tricks and Vegeta revealing his full power of 24,000. They still can't seem to land a hit on him. It even gets to the point where Qui tries to trick Tora by yelling out that Frieza is right behind them both, but Tora and Vegeta tell Qui to shut up. At one point, Vegeta grabs an injured Qui and throws him at Tora to distract him, as he points his fingers at Qui, causing him to explode at point-blank range of Tora. Qui is killed, but Tora is okay, which shocks Vegeta. Tora appears in front of him, grabbing him by the shoulder and kicking him in the gut. Before Vegeta faints, Tora tells him that he only got this strong by believing in others, by believing in his Namekian family, and believing in his squad. Dodoria's battle with Fasha and Krillin continued. Krillin was pretty winded, but Fasha was okay. Krillin's solar flare was able to blind Dodoria as Fasha attacks, with the enraged Dodoria declaring that he'll kill them both. Slowly, Fasha puts out her hand, telling Krillin to stand back. This is her fight. It's personal. Krillin backs off as Fasha and Dodoria charge at each other. Dodoria and Fasha lock hands in a vicious battle of strength. Dodoria begins to notice that he's getting overpowered by the Saiyan, commenting on how she's not the same Saiyan he knew before. Then, firmly grabbing his hand and crushing them. Dodoria cries out in pain, and Fasha throws him up in the air. Leaping back and landing on all fours, she jumps up in the air, spinning as she slashes his neck, then swiping across his chest in a flurry of blows, shattering his armor. Fasha jumped on his shoulders and launched herself onto the island below, jumping off right before impact, crushing Dodoria with her knee. A large crater forms as the lifeless body of Dodoria lays. That was for her friends. Krillin is in nervous awe and fear. Back in the cave, Gohan is playing with Cargo, Dende, and Borgos when Zarbon appears. Zarbon says that he knew that the other Namekians were here, but he was pleasantly surprised to see just this many. One of them must know where the Dragon Balls are. Gohan gets in the fighting stance, but Borgos puts his hand on Gohan's shoulder. The Saiyan walks towards Zarbon, who flips his hair, saying how repulsive a creature like him is, compared to someone as beautiful as himself. As Zarbon goes in for an attack, Borgos grabs him by the head, punching him in the stomach with a free hand. Zarbon ragdolls out of the cave and towards a mountain. Borgos follows suit. Zarbon curses under his breath. How dare he try to destroy something as beautiful as him. But Borgos doesn't flinch at any of his attacks. Zarbon laughs, saying that he still has one card under his sleeve, transforming into his monstrous self. But Borgos is having none of it. Zarbon goes down quickly. Zarbon attempts one last desperate move as he goes to bear hug Borgos and headbutt him. But this doesn't hurt Borgos. Instead, he looks at the lizard man. Borgos breaks Zarbon's grip, grabbing him by the head. He repeatedly headbutts Zarbon until he's defeated. Borgos jumps back as he charges up a mouth beam, hitting Zarbon point blank. This is the end of him. Meanwhile, at Frieza's ship, Frieza realized that it's been a long time since Dodoria and Zarbon left, so he has no option but to call down the Ginyu force with some new scouters. How have they been unable to locate any Dragon Balls? Frieza is furious. At this point, Tora, Borgos, and Fasha bring their groups to the Grand Elder's home. Gohan and Krillin are shocked to see that the Saiyans were able to beat Vegeta. Nail comes out of the home and greets his students. Tora, Borgos, and Fasha explain what happened to them and that Frieza had returned. Nail thanks them for saving the people once again and asks that all of them, including Gohan and Krillin, to come inside as the Grand Elder is waiting. The Earthlings meet Gero. He asks Krillin to come forth as he reads his memories, doing the same for Borgos, Tora, and Fasha. The Grand Elder decides that it's finally time to release the Saiyans' true potential, unleashing them to enormous heights. Doing the same for Krillin and Gohan. As everyone begins to plan on their next course of action, they start to feel many Namekians' ki around the world disappear. They feel 5 new ki energies arrive. They are attacking the planet. Vegeta enters the house, sweating, tired, and hurt. The Ginyu Force have arrived. He recognizes them. Nail orders his students to save the remaining Namekians as he stays behind to protect Gero. Fasha tells him that it's suicide. He has no chance against this monster, but Nail smiles at her, saying that it's his sworn duty to protect the Grand Elder. But Fasha won't listen. Nail puts a hand on her shoulder, and he tells her and the others that, should he die, it's up to them to become the protectors of Planet Namek in his place. It's a tearful goodbye. The Saiyans and the Earthlings leave Gero's home to find the Ginyu Force. The fighters split up on different directions to evacuate the Namekians. They find to their horrors that every single spot had been decimated. Additionally, their Dragon Balls taken, except for one. In the mountain caves where Cargo and Dende were, the kids were able to successfully hide the Dragon Ball from Recoome and Goldo, but not before killing Cargo and leaving Dende to die. Dende was able to heal himself after Krillin and Fasha arrive. He explains what happened, and that the Ginyu Force now have 5 Dragon Balls. Tora and the others have found Ginyu as they were flying towards Frieza's mothership to sneak attack them, kicking Ginyu and Jais into a nearby island. There, they fly down to meet his glands. He's surprised to see several Saiyans survive, but it's about time they finish what Frieza started. The Ginyu Force play rock, paper, scissors in order to see who goes first, but all of them attack at the same time. The Ginyu Force has no option but to fight all together. The Saiyans have a great disadvantage, especially thanks to Goldo's time stop and Vegeta's injuries. However, the timely arrival of Fasha and Krillin helps swing things a little bit on their end. Borgos versus Recoome, Krillin versus Goldo, Fasha versus Jais, Gohan versus Birder, and Tora versus Ginyu. Meanwhile, Vegeta is healed by Dende, receiving a Senkai boost and rejoining the fight, landing a fatal sneak attack on Goldo. Krillin joins Borgos in fighting Recoome. Captain Ginyu orders everyone to regroup. With the 4 remaining members of the Ginyu Force together now, they unleash a brutal, quick, and coordinated attack that begins to take out each of the heroes. As Tora lies on the ground, bleeding, Recoome holds him up by the neck. Captain Ginyu asks if he has any last words. Tora is about to say something when he suddenly stops, his eyes moving erratically, looking at something in the distance. He whispers something, which makes Ginyu ask him to speak up. Tora yells out, "Bardock!" As the Ginyu Force is blasted away with a ginormous Kamehameha, Goku has arrived. He says that he doesn't know who they are, but he thanks them for helping out his son and best friend. Borgos and Fasha stare in disbelief, just watching him walk in front of them. Tora is on his knees, hurt, trying to crawl towards Goku, asking for Bardock. But Goku says that he doesn't know anything about rocks. Goku throws a senzu bean at them, splitting it in half so they can heal a little. Goku proceeds to stomp Recoome. Jais and Murder, all of the Saiyans get healed. Pumping up, they watch as Goku dismantles the Ginyu Force, with Vegeta realizing that Frieza's ship is now empty and flying towards it. Tora asks Borgos to follow him, as he tells Fasha that now it's the best time to summon the dragon. She heads back to the Grand Elders to grab one Dragon Ball, and then to the cave to grab the other. Captain Ginyu tries to stop them, but Goku gets in the way. The two switch bodies, with the events playing out more or less as usual. But instead of Vegeta being around, it's Tora. After an arduous fight, Goku gets returned to his body, but is gravely injured. Tora picks him up, and all of them head towards the healing pod on Frieza's ship. At Frieza's mother's ship, Vegeta and Borgos clear out the remaining Frieza men. The other heroes arrive, as Tora places Goku in the healing pod. He tells him that he reminds him a lot of a man he once knew. After Goku's placed in the pod, he thinks to himself that if they were to survive this, that he'll tell Kakarot about who his father is, about his mother, about his people, because he knew who he was. He was the son of Bardock. Dende and Fasha arrive with the Dragon Balls, with the fighters putting on their new battle armors. For Borgos, Fasha and Tora, this feels strange, yet familiar. They hadn't put on any Frieza Force armor in many years. They approach Vegeta, as Tora begins to tell him about his plan that might be able to take out Frieza. They leave to a nearby clearing, with Dende summoning Purunga. They can all feel Frieza's ki heading their way. Vegeta yells at Dende to give him immortality, but Borgos and Tora hold him off, while Fasha whispers to Dende their wish. The first wish is to revive Piccolo, and the second wish is to bring him to Namek. But right before their third wish is made, Purunga deactivates. The Grand Elder was dead. The Saiyans mourn in silence, but there's no time for that. Frieza arrives. Tora asks Vegeta to stick to their plan, but instead Vegeta launches at Frieza first, declaring himself to be the legendary Super Saiyan. Gohan and Krillin asks what exactly that is, and Borgos explains the legend. Vegeta is losing, so Tora yells at him to do it now. With no other options, Vegeta launches a Power Ball up in the air, telling Gohan, Krillin, and Dende to stay back. Tora, Fasha, and Borgos turn into mighty Ozarus for the first time in many years. After decades of intense physical and mental training, they have been able to overcome their tail weaknesses, and they gamble that this might mean they'll be able to control their Ozaru forms. The gamble pays off, and they are able to control themselves and begin to launch attacks towards Frieza. The Emperor is overwhelmed. He didn't expect this at all. He should have finished the job when he had the chance. However, Frieza transforms into his second state, now much stronger than the Ozarus. Even with the help of Gohan, Krillin, and Vegeta, they still aren't enough to deal with Frieza. Frieza blasts away their tails, turning the Saiyans back down to normal. Frieza's getting ready to kill Fasha, when all of a sudden, he gets knocked away by a Namekian. Piccolo has arrived. Fasha stares at him in disbelief and whispers, "A nail?" Piccolo shakes his head as he takes off his cape. He's no longer the Nail she once knew. In this timeline, Piccolo still finds the dying Nail, who attempted to fight Frieza, and assimilated together. Piccolo fights against second form Frieza as Dende heals everyone else, giving the Saiyans another needed power-up. Frieza transforms into his third state, shooting down Piccolo. The Saiyans arrive to save Piccolo from Frieza. Frieza is very impressed with everyone's increase in power, and Gohan's rage boost allows him to at least knock down third form Frieza. This shocks Tora and the rest of the Saiyans, but there's no time to think about it. Frieza's still alive and reveals that he has one more form left. Everyone rushes in an attempt to stop him from transforming, but the shockwaves resulting from the transformation sends them flying off. Final form Frieza reveals himself, with a single blast, killing Dende, but Vegeta declares himself a Super Saiyan, going in to attack, but resulting in a loss. The other Saiyans gang up on Frieza, but simple slaps from his tail send them flying off. In a cruel act, Frieza watches as Borgos and Fasha line up for an attack, and with a flick of his finger, he pierces through both of them. Tora falls to his knees over the body of his friends. It's then when Goku arrives. Frieza remarks on how Goku looks very similar to a Saiyan that attempted to rebel against him and fought alone for his planet. Tora realizes that Frieza must be talking about Bardock, so he really was dead after all. Tora always held that hope that Bardock might have survived. That thought helped him survive all these years. Tora begins to shed a tear and tells Goku about his father, about his mother, and all of the Saiyans. That they were proud warriors and that this monster and his father had their people enslaved for their entire lives. They couldn't be anything more than vicious killers, but he knows that, thanks to Bardock and the Namekians, he knows that the Saiyan people could have been much more if they were just given the chance. He looks at Goku and says that, although he didn't think Vegeta was actually the Super Saiyan, he genuinely believes Kakarot has the potential to be. Tora looks at Kakarot in the eyes. Everything stops for him for a second. Tora realizes that Kakarot had been sent to Earth, that Bardock had saved him, that before any of them realized, Bardock was already seeing good in the Saiyans, that he was tired of all the death and destruction, how the rest of his squad would eventually be too. It's then when Frieza shoots him, he's knocked down, unconscious, but not dead quite yet. Goku looks at the dead bodies of Fasha, Borgos, as Frieza laughs to himself. Goku buries the bodies of the Saiyans, but Frieza is going to attack Goku, who merely slaps the blast away. Goku talks about how he understands that they were killers like Vegeta and did bad things, but that Tora was right. They changed, and their people could have done the same if they were given the chance. Goku looks at the bloodied robes on Tora. As he rips some of it off, he ties the red cloth over his forehead and says that he will be not only avenging the Saiyan race, not only the Namekians, but also Bardock, Tora, Fasha, and all of the Saiyans. Goku and Frieza fight. Vegeta watches in awe through the whole fight. The Genki-Dama eventually takes down Frieza, but he's not dead quite yet. When he reappears on top of the mountain formation, he remarks on how the Saiyans were so weak, they could never kill him. He proceeds to kill Krillin, tries to kill Gohan and Piccolo. It's then when the Super Saiyan legend is achieved. The heat of the aura wakes up Tora, and he looks up, just barely being able to look at Kakarot, but he recognized it instantly. This was the legendary form. This was the Super Saiyan. Tora feels himself being picked up and sees that Vegeta is taking him. Even if Vegeta wants to stay, he knows he doesn't stand a chance, and he admired the Saiyan. He wanted to at least keep him alive. The battle between Frieza and Goku plays out similarly to the original. The Earth's Dragon Balls revive everyone killed by Frieza and his men, including Borgos and Fasha. They look around as their planet is being destroyed, and far away they see a golden aura. Before Porunga's Dragon Balls are used to bring everyone from Namek to Earth, Tora mentions to his friends that he believes that Goku will in fact defeat Frieza, and on Earth, Tora, Borgos, and Fasha reunite with the Namekians as they gather for the passing of the Grand Elder. Murray becomes the new Grand Elder and thanks everyone for their help. He decides that his first act as Grand Elder is to recognize Borgos, Fasha, and Tora for their efforts by making them honorary Namekians. They have been for a while, but decides that it's best to make it official. The Saiyans thank them for this honor and approach Piccolo. All three of them ask if he is Nail, and Piccolo responds that no. He explains what happened to him, and they are all saddened by the news. But Piccolo says that Nail isn't dead, that he continues to live on within him, shooting a smile towards Fasha. The Namekians have all lived on Capsule Corp until Planet Namek and the Dragon Balls are reactivated. The Saiyans enjoyed their time on Earth, and when their Dragon Balls were reactivated, they wished to bring back Krillin and Goku, but Goku is still alive out there somewhere. They try to bring him home, but Goku is busy at the moment. He'll be back soon. Shenron also revives the rest of the Z Fighters. The next time they use the Dragon Balls, they use the wish to bring back Namek and teleport all the Namekians there. Fasha asks Piccolo if he'll be coming with them, and he declines. Fasha stays quiet for a moment, and she's making a decision. She approaches the Namekian and she tells them that she plans on staying on Earth. Tora says that he wants to stay here for a while as well. He wants to be there when Kakarot's son returns. The Namekians understand and give them the blessings. Borgos says goodbye to his friends. He's going to New Namek. That's where his home is. Fasha and Tora say their goodbyes as both get on their hands and knees, telling the Namekians that they saved their lives and that they owe them everything. The Namekians and Borgos leave. Tora decides to live near Mount Pautsu, building a home for himself while Fasha becomes a nomad. Fasha finds Piccolo in a wasteland. Piccolo asks why she doesn't live in a house with her friend. Fasha says that she doesn't feel comfortable doing that. She misses the blue grass and the green skies of Namek, so she'd rather live in the wastelands here that remind her of her home. Piccolo says that he understands why Tora stayed, but not why she stayed. Fasha sets it simple. Piccolo, or Neo, didn't want to be on Namek, so she didn't want to go either. Fasha says that Neo's death made her realize that she needed to be more true to herself, and says that she misses Neo quite a bit, looking down in sadness, and she recognizes his ki within Piccolo. Piccolo blushes and doesn't really understand what she's talking about, but Fasha simply turns to him, saying, "You can't get away from me that easily, Neo." A year and a half later, the Z-Fighters all detect something horrible heading towards Earth. Something familiar. Frieza was alive, heading towards the planet. Everyone gathered together, ready to fight off Frieza. But a new arrival surprises them. A boy able to turn into a Super Saiyan, who defeats the tyrants. The boy tells them that Goku will be arriving soon. Tora, Fasha, and Vegeta question how this random boy, who doesn't even appear to be a Saiyan, was able to turn into a Super Saiyan. But around the time the boy said Goku would arrive, everyone looks up in shock. Even the boy is shocked. Instead of a single space pod, it's a larger spaceship arriving on Earth. Everyone gets into a battle stance, not knowing what to expect, when Goku steps out in his yard rat clothing with another person. Behind him comes out Shugesh. Tora and Fasha couldn't believe it. Standing before them was not only Bardock's son, Goku, but also their former comrade, Shugesh. It had been decades since the last saw him, ever since he was banished from their adoptive planet of Namek. Before anyone could bombard the pair of Saiyans with questions, Goku looked around and asked what the heck happened here. He could have sworn that he sensed Frieza's power here before it suddenly went away. Trunks stepped forward and said that he was the one to take care of Frieza. Goku congratulates the boy before admitting that he doesn't know who he is. As Trunks steps away with Goku to tell him something private, the rest of the Z-Fighters look at Shugesh. Tora, Fasha, and Shugesh simply stare at each other in awkward silence before Shugesh decides to break the ice, saying, "So, how you guys been?" Tora goes in for a hug with Shugesh as he reciprocates. Fasha smirks and he punches him in the shoulder, asking where he's been this whole time. Shugesh explains that after he left Namek, he became a freedom fighter and launched attacks against many of Frieza's outposts. Over time, he started to gather a gang of people with similar grudges against Frieza. He ended up becoming an unlikely leader of a rebellion, and for many years, he roamed the galaxy with his crew to liberate the Frieza Force planets. It took a while, but he thinks that he finally understands the lesson that the Grand Elder Guru was talking about so long ago. He asks the pair how the Elder and the Namekians are doing, and they look at each other solemnly. They explain the events that happened on Namek, Frieza's invasion, the death of Neo and the Elder, their battles against Frieza, and their meetings with the Earthlings, and with Bardock's son, Kakarot. Meanwhile, Trunks reveals himself to be a time traveler from the future. He asks Goku exactly who these Saiyans are, since he's never heard of them from where he came from. Goku tells Trunks not to worry, and then they're good people. They used to be friends with his dad. Trunks gives him a warning about a pair of androids that would lay waste to the planet in 3 years' time. He also gives him a heart medicine to save his life. He wishes Goku luck before departing in his time machine. Goku regroups with the others, and he tells everyone about the time traveler's warning. Everyone is shocked to hear about these androids, especially Tora. He clenches his fist as he hears about how these robots destroyed planet Earth and killed their last remaining members of Bardock's family. Tora pledges to protect Goku and his family with all his might, as Fasha retorts, saying that he can't protect anything if he can't figure out how to turn Super Saiyan first. Fasha then asks Goku how he met Shugesh. Goku tells his story about what happened after his battle against Frieza. After escaping to a planet named Yardrat on a Ginyu spacebot, the local inhabitants nursed him back to health, as their elder, Pibara, trained Goku in various spiritual techniques, along with a method of controlling his new Super Saiyan state. During the training, Pibara mentioned that he wasn't the first Saiyan to be trained there. This surprised Goku. He asked his master for more details on this Saiyan, and he starts to get excited. Many years ago, another more violent Saiyan crashed on the planet. He was angry, a lost soul who needed more guidance. It took many years of training for him to steady his soul and temper his mind. Goku excitedly begs his master to meet this guy. He sounds pretty strong. Pibara agrees that perhaps having his former pupil around could help Goku further refine his Super Saiyan transformation. He searches for Shugesh's ki and finds it out in space. However, he's concerned. He sees that the Saiyan's ki is extremely low and dropping fast. Pibara asks Goku for assistance in rescuing the pupil. As they both instant transmission to Shugesh, they appear in front of the wounded man. Shugesh is lying on the floor of a spaceship, motionless, his ki dropping. Pibara does what he can to stabilize him, while Goku looks over to the controls of the ship and sees that there's someone laying on top of it, dead, an alien creature of some kind. Once back at Yardred, Shugesh comes to his senses. He couldn't believe what he saw as he woke up. Bardock. Goku was taken aback. This man knew his father too. After a little more conversation, Shugesh explained that he ended up on planet Zune. His squad had been investigating a mysterious gang of evildoers that engraved themselves with an M on their forehead. They had been kidnapping many powerful individuals through the galaxy after the fall of the Frieza Empire. What he didn't expect was to find a man called Dabura, who proclaimed that he wanted to revive an ancient evil known as Majin Buu and serve as master, Babidi. Dabura slaughtered Shugesh's men, and although Shugesh wanted to battle till death, one of his men shoved him into a spaceship. The soldier typed the coordinates for Namek, and just as he finished, he was blasted along with Shugesh. The ship sped off, but Dabura and the rest assumed that they were all dead. Shugesh lived, but his squadron perished. Now the Saiyan makes it his mission to not only avenge his squad, but also stop this Babidi and whoever Majin Buu is. Back in the present, Shugesh sees these androids as an opportunity to find someone who's strong enough to defeat Dabura. They all have a long way to go, but he hopes that Goku can do it. Shugesh is also introduced to Vegeta, who doesn't care much for him, although the story about the Demon King does pique his interest. Shugesh notices the prince's loud and prideful demeanor, which reminds him of how he used to be. Shugesh offers to show Vegeta a different way, but the prince immediately rebukes the offer, saying that it's of no interest, and he doesn't care about the low-class trash. During the 3 years of training, Shugesh served largely as a mentor for Goku, though he also took a liking to Gohan. The kid would always want a challenge, and Shugesh gave him some tips, though he didn't take it too seriously. Fasha and Piccolo trained together a lot, and she was actually the first one to transform into a Super Saiyan after Goku. She achieved it when Piccolo nearly defeated her in a match. She saw a mirage of Nail, sensing him from within Piccolo. The Namekian was very proud, though part of him wished that she would stop hanging around him so much. Nail's side appreciated it though. Tora trained largely with Shugesh and Goku as well, and the three, along with Gohan, would discuss and tell stories about Bardock and Ginyu. Every piece of Bardock's past both surprised and infuriated Goku. Saiyans were awful killers, but Tora always punctuated the stories by reminding Goku that in the end, Bardock changed his ways in order to save him, even if it was too late for him. Tora was the third person to turn into a Super Saiyan, achieving it during a battle against Goku, and being reminded of Bardock. Eventually, the 3 years passed, and Shugesh was very happy with their progress. He never achieved Super Saiyan status himself. He decided long ago that he wouldn't rely on this anger dictating his actions ever again. Instead, he wanted to try a different approach. Don't underestimate him, however. He's still a mighty foe. Tora and Shugesh also made sure that Goku took the hard medicine. Then, the androids attacked. Goku and the rest arrived on an island city. What they didn't expect was that at the moment of the explosion, another explosion was felt from a very far distance. 2 androids attack at the same time. Bulma informed them that there were news reportings about another attack occurring at the same time in Ginger Town. So Goku, Shugesh, Krillin, and Tien agreed to check it out. Meanwhile, Fasha, Gohan, Yamcha, and Tora would stay to fight these androids. Goku and Shugesh teleported everyone to the key presence, near a scared civilian in Ginger Town. The smoke blinded them, but they watched as 2 pairs of red eyes beamed through the smoke, a short one and a tall one. They called themselves androids number 14 and 15. The fight started with an explosive punch of Goku. The androids didn't stand a chance. Shugesh, however, was having a little bit more trouble. Even so, he stood his ground. Meanwhile, Dr. Gero finds Yamcha, and the bandit immediately falls to the curse of Yamcha, getting his energy drained when Fasha finds them. She reacts quickly, picking up a nearby truck and slamming it into the androids, which saves Yamcha, although he does get hurt in the process. Yamcha scolds Fasha for nearly killing him, but she smirks, replying with a "you're welcome." The other Saiyans gather as they question the old man and the clown.
You two were unexpected visitors. It's because of you that I had to release 14 and 15. Doesn't matter, your days are counted.
Dr. Gero explains that his goal is to kill Goku and the other heroes before taking over in the name of the Red Ribbon Army. Tora clenches his fist, declaring that no one can harm Goku and his family. Tora rushes at Dr. Gero as the others deal with 19. Yamcha warns everyone about the android's ability to absorb energy as he attempts to recompose himself. Tora exchanges many blows with Gero, but he remains cautious of his hands. As Tora struggles against Gero, the doctor coldly states that he's been planning his revenge for many years, but his entire plan could have been accomplished if it wasn't for so many different unknown variables. These variables being Tora and the other Saiyan friends. Because of this, he was forced to release some older models of androids in order to deal with these new fighters. Suddenly, before the doctor could say anything else, 19 is kicked towards Gero and knocks him off his feet, shooting them both towards a building. Fasha smirks to herself, saying that if they don't like these unknown variables, they really won't like this. She yells out, charging her ki to the max, her aura and hair turning golden, unleashing the mighty roar of a Super Saiyan. This shocks Gero quite a bit. Fasha charges the 19. She dodges all of the android's punches before grabbing his arms and snapping them like a twig. A scared number 19 tries to grab her throat, but she easily dodges and slashes his arm off too. Fasha chuckles and she begins to walk slowly towards the machine. It had been ages since she had dominated another warrior like this. It reminded her of times she used to conquer planets with Bardock and his squad. 19 is horrified and attempts to run away, but Fasha appears in front of him, headbutting him repeatedly until his face is nearly unrecognizable, just bolts and wires. She picks him up immediately and crashes him back down against her knee. The impact is so powerful that 19 breaks apart, electric circuits and oil flying off everywhere as the remaining husk of 19 falls on the floor. Gohan, Yamcha, and even Gero are left in shock and awe at the brutal display. Tora chastises Fasha, asking her if she really needed to go that far, but she simply shrugs her shoulders and says that she never hold back against her enemies. Besides, these robot rejects were planning on raising the planet, so it's only fair to not show them mercy. During this conversation, Gero recognizes that this battle is lost, and immediately takes the chance to escape. Gohan yells out that Gero is getting away, and the warriors speed off after him. Goku focused on 15, while Krillin and Tien rushed against 14. Shugesh stood back and watched. Goku dodged out of the way of a blast from 15, but this gave 14 a chance to grab onto him. The android created a barrier that hurt Goku immensely and kept everyone away. They realized that the barrier was impenetrable. 15 began to rain down ki bullets, and in response, Krillin and Tien fired a Kamehameha and a Dodonpa. 15 activated his barrier as well. Shugesh had an idea. The blasts were slowly pushing the android away. Shugesh charged up his ki to the max and fired a huge blast. This pushed 15 and his barrier into 14's own barrier. The two force fields making contact exploded and sent both hurling out to the ground. 15's head rolled off to Goku's leg. 14 took the opportunity and the confusion to grab onto 15's body and slammed it against Shugesh, his nose breaking. With the gust of dirt around them, 14 looked ready to finish off Shugesh. It's then that 14 explodes. Vegeta had arrived. His Super Saiyan aura pushed away the dust, and he dropped his hand, having just destroyed 14 with a big bang attack. Following the battle, Goku and his team teleported back to help. They find the fighters going after Dr. Gero. They end up on the hillside where this lab is at. In desperation, and realizing his other androids had failed as well, Gero reluctantly activates more. 16, 17, 18, and 13. He hoped this would be enough. The one he almost didn't free was 16. He couldn't bear deal with the death of someone that looked just like his son again. Android 13 was an older android developed by Gero's computer. He was one of the most powerful, but he was incomplete, needing parts from 15 and 14 to reach his maximal potential, similar to another creature he was developing. 17 and 18 threaten Gero, but 16 steps in the way. He's completely loyal, and Gero orders him to protect him at all costs. 17 and 18 get into a small scuffle, but realize that this isn't worth their time, warning Gero that he can stay alive as long as they can keep him in sight. Gero agrees. 13 pushes the twins away. They complain, but realize that it was because the door of the lab came hurling towards them. The Z fighters had arrived, led by Vegeta this time, another Super Saiyan. 13 slams his way out of the lab, taking everyone in his way down. Without a choice, Vegeta starts to battle against 13. 18 and 17 find this a drag, but they join. 18 fights Fasha, while Tora fights 17. An incoming blast gets slapped away by 16, and he focuses on the assailant, Goku. Gero puts a hand on 16's chest. 16 nodded, and Goku's toughest fight began. But the Saiyans don't stand a chance. These androids are out of this world. Even Trunks' warning seemed insignificant. It was Trunks. Android 13 smashed his knee against Vegeta's groin, leaving him out of the battle. This was once Shugesh realized that they needed to escape. Without even telling them, he teleported Tora, Fasha, and the rest out of there to Goku's home. Fasha yelled at Shugesh that she had 18, only to fall back down from her injuries. Vegeta slowly gets up, screaming out and nearly blowing the roof off, but Goku wasn't back. In fact, he was enjoying the fight against 16. Goku was strong, but nothing like this guy. Even so, he was trying to push his limits. The other androids were confused that everyone had teleported away, and simply watched the fight. Gero yelled at them to help 16, but the twins didn't listen. But Android 13 did. Goku shouted, 2 against 1? No fair. But neither android cared. Without a choice, Goku also teleported away. He cursed the world once he landed. He really wanted to keep fighting that 16 guy. The team finally regrouped. They were very unprepared. Trunks, the future warrior, reappeared in the present. Things had changed. He flew over to the destroyed lab. There weren't supposed to be this many androids. They weren't supposed to be freed too early. He hoped that everyone was okay. He needed to get over to Mount Paozu before the androids found Goku again. Meanwhile, Goku explained to everyone that they needed to work together and enter the Room of Spirit and Time. He put a hand on Gohan's head and smiled. He passed around pieces of a senzu bean. But Vegeta and Fasha's pride were far too hurt. Fasha pushed Goku to the side and told him that she was going to defeat those androids no matter what. Right here, right now. Piccolo tried to stop her, but she pushed his arm away, saying, "Stay back, Nail." She blasted off, and Vegeta followed behind. She couldn't be the only one to get vengeance. Tora went after her. Goku stopped everyone else from following. They needed to stop and think. Piccolo was surprised at Goku, but says that he has something to take care of first. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Piccolo heads to the lookout. Meanwhile, Fasha and the others pass by Trunks, who was heading out to Mount Paozu. He does a U-turn and goes after them. He asks what the hell is going on, but that becomes painfully clear once they find 2 key signatures disappear near where they fought the androids. Landing, they realize the androids had stolen a van. 16 sat in the back along with Gero, while the twins drove. 13 followed by flying behind the truck. But 13 was suddenly slammed into the road beneath him. Vegeta landed on the hood of the cart, with 17 and 18 crashing through the window. A rematch? Already? But this time, there was a new Super Saiyan. Gero was getting really tired of this, much like how Trunks was getting tired of these androids. Vegeta once again faced 13, Fasha against 18, Tora against 17, and Trunks against 16. It didn't go well. Trunks kept on pleading with them to stand back and run away, but they wouldn't listen. Trunks' sword broke in half on 16's shoulder when the androids then grabbed onto Trunks and slammed him against the truck, exploding. Trunks could barely stand up. 18 was a little impressed with Fasha. She was doing better than before. After all, their Saiyan biology made them somewhat stronger, but still wasn't enough. 17 taunted Tora, as he was able to easily dodge and parry every single one of his attacks. He even managed to flick Tora's forehead before grabbing his arm and throwing him into incoming traffic. In his anger and frustration over his own self-perceived weakness, Tora burst his golden key and landed a punch onto 17. However, even though they gained their second wind, the Saiyans were clearly fighting a losing battle, and beaten to their breaking points. On the brink of death, they all expected to be executed, when Goku appeared and teleported Vegeta and Fasha away, while Shugesh got Trunks and Tora. They ended up at Kami's lookout. There were no more senzu beans. Popo left them to recover in the lookout's bed. Goku looked down at the ground. There were no more Dragon Balls. Nothing to heal them. Tora was the least hurt of the group, and he walked over to Goku with his bandages on. He asked why he couldn't feel Kami's ki at the lookout. Goku explained to look further out, and Tora finally sensed it. An incredible ki, no doubt enough to destroy these androids. That was Piccolo. He had fused with Kami. Tora laughed, saying that Fasha wouldn't be happy to have someone else sharing with Nail. But without Kami, there were no more Dragon Balls. Goku nodded, but Tora simply asked him, why not get someone from Namek? Maybe even bring Borgos along. Goku's eyes widened. He instantly teleported away, grabbing Dende and Borgos, and teleported back. Everyone was confused, but Dende was quick to understand his duties. He could be Kami's replacement as the Guardian of Earth. Borgo was also very happy to see his friends, and will help any way he could. However, he was apprehensive about Shugesh. In fact, Borgos punched him in the face. Shugesh staggered back with his eyes closed shut, but he was brought in for a hug. Shugesh welcomed his old friend, as he explained the situation going on Earth. In one of the only times Borgos ever spoke, he said that he wished they had an android on their side. Goku raised an eyebrow. Dende helped heal everyone, and Goku explained the plan. They would need to go into the time chamber. Vegeta and Trunks agreed to be the first ones in, but no one else wanted to simply stick around. Goku told them to search for the Dragon Balls with Bulma's help, just in case. Meanwhile, Goku needed to visit an old friend. After the battle against the Z-Fighters, the androids turned back to find another ride. Maybe one of those cars on the highway still worked? It was at this point that they realized that Dr. Gero was gone. They asked 16 what happened, but he simply looked away. It was his mission to protect them, but he knew he was okay. That's all he could tell them. 13 looked at 17 and 18 sternly, saying that he would return, but that he needed to find 14 and 15 first. The twins were confused. They thought those were destroyed already. Now we see Ginger Town, the town where Goku battled 14 and 15. But this time the streets are empty, not a single soul alive, as a creature made his way through the town, leaving piles of clothes in his wake. It was Cell, the bio-android. The bug looks up, hearing the sounds of footsteps. This time it wasn't Piccolo, however. It was Android 13.
Hello, brother. I knew I'd see you sooner or later. I assume you're looking for this scrap metal. Hand those over nicely. No way. I need something from you first. I need 17 and 18. You know where they are. Now, kids, we can all get along.
From behind 13, Cell heard a familiar voice. A voice that told them both to stop bickering. They are brothers, after all. It was Dr. Gero. Cell was surprised. He had thought him to be dead by now. Gero told Cell to give all the parts to Android 13 and not to worry. Gero would bring him to the twins. Gero proclaimed himself already as the ruler of Earth. The twins and the Z-Fighters were the only obstacle. Soon, Gero, 16, 13, and Cell would rule over the universe. Cell kneeled in front of Gero and proceeded to hand over the parts to 13. The two shook hands, pressing hard, a sparkle of electricity going on between them. Gero told 13 to leave him and find Goku. Cell and Gero had a lot to talk about, calling him the future android. Goku arrived at Jingle Village. There, he was welcomed by an old friend, Suno, and Android 8. Goku had come seeking help from Aider. The three sat down and discussed the situation. And of course, Aider agreed to help, and go to Capsule Corp, where Bulma would examine him. Perhaps there was a clue inside Aider that could help them defeat the androids. It was decided, but Goku jumped to his feet and rushed out the door, telling Aider to take care of Suno while he gave them time to get out of here. The girl was confused, but Goku watched as Android 13 floated over the village. He chuckled and blasted at the house. Goku protected it and instantly launched himself at 13, pushing him further and further into the tundra until they reached the remains of Muscle Tower. 13 laughed loudly. This was what he was fighting for, what was left of the red ribbon. Goku transformed into a Super Saiyan. He was sure that now he could take on 13. He just needed to be careful. After all, he wasn't as strong as 16. Goku started to dominate the fight, easily outmaneuvering 13. He grabbed him by the legs and spun him onto what was left of the tower. It came crashing down, but 13 expanded his aura and pieces flew everywhere. Goku was surprised. Android 13 said that he was done playing around. It was time for Goku to meet the ultimate android. Out of his pockets, he revealed the remains of 14 and 15, and a bright light consumed him. Goku couldn't believe it. The ice below them both broke apart. Super Android 13 was born, and Goku was instantly slammed into a mountain. This caused an avalanche that drowned Goku. The Saiyan escaped, but was brought down by an elbow to the back. This was followed by an SS Deadly Bomber, which he tried to escape from, but it followed him up to the sky. Without a choice, Goku blasted a Kamehameha down at it, but Android 13 kept on pressing Ki onto it. The Kamehameha finally ripped apart, and Goku was sent hurling out as the SS Deadly Bomber exploded. 13 was sure that this had been enough to kill Goku. As his hair returned to normal, 13 grabbed onto Goku by his limp arm, throwing him over to where the avalanche had been. One last I-beam to seal the deal, and Android 13 left the scene. Goku fell deep below the water, unconscious, but someone dove down and saved him, throwing him back out to the surface. The person provided CPR. Back at the lookout, Tora was sitting on the floor. A sweat fell down from his face. He was desperately searching for Goku. He looked everywhere, but he couldn't find him. He was starting to panic. Did those monsters get to Kakarot? Had he failed to uphold his promise to protect Bardock's family? His thoughts were cut short, however, when Krillin gets a call from a terrified Bulma. She had just been called by Chi-Chi, saying that some of Goku's old friends were visiting. She handed the phone over to Dr. Gero, who said hello, telling Bulma to call over Goku or Chi-Chi dies. Gero had returned to the twins and 16 earlier, explaining that he had just some prior commitments to clear up. They had no idea where Goku is. So Piccolo and Fasha agreed to go. Piccolo had been looking for the creature who was absorbing humans but never found him. He was sure he could at least take down 17 and 18. They both flew off to Mount Pautsu, hoping that Goku was still alive out there. While Gohan sat at the lookout, looking up to the sky, waiting for his father to return. At Goku's home, Chi-Chi was busy serving tea to their guests. Gero thanked her for her hospitality, as 16 remained silent. 17 and 18 declined, saying that they were more into soda than tea. In an instant, Fasha appeared, grabbing Chi-Chi and throwing her back. Gero was surprised. He wasn't expecting anyone to try that. A blast from 16 came her way, but she yelled out for Shugesh, who teleported Chi-Chi out of there. Gero damned the world, said that it didn't matter. Chi-Chi was frightened, telling Shugesh to get his hands off of her, but Krillin made sure to get her to calm down when she reached the lookout. Piccolo and Fasha stood their ground, face to face with a mechanical menace. But before fighting, Piccolo channels Nail and reminds Fasha about what she learned on Namek: peace, calmness, strategy over brutality. She needed to focus for this battle. Fasha felt Nail's ki within Piccolo more than ever, even if it was shared with Kami. It inspired her to get into her battle stance, and under her breath, she apologized to Goku for trashing his home. Piccolo rushed at 17 and Fasha at 18, while 16 watched nearby. They crashed through the wall and onto the outside of the property. Fasha was doing a lot better, finally getting used to 18's fighting style, and on her end, 18 was having a little bit more trouble. After all, they've already fought twice, and Fasha was getting stronger than the last time they met. As Piccolo continued to exchange blows with 17, 18 attempts to land some blows on Fasha. However, the Saiyan parries punches and responds with her own counterattacks. Fasha confidently states that she's not the same Saiyan as she was before, crashing her palm straight onto 18's jaw. Fasha throws a volley of ki blasts at Android 18, which forces her to open her barrier. Fasha smirks. This was the opening she was waiting for. As the barrier dissipates, Fasha suddenly appears before 18, kicking straight into her gut before performing a haymaker, which sends the blonde cyborg hurling into a forest beneath them. After fighting the androids multiple times now, Fasha picked out a crucial flaw. When the androids activate their barrier, there's a brief moment of time where they're left wide open as they close it down. The fights continue until an SS Deadly Bomber crashes between the fighters. They look back around, and to their surprise, they see Android 13, Gero, and a new creature. Piccolo fears the worst. This is the villain he had been looking for. Gero explained that this was the prior agreement that he was talking about. He welcomed Cell from the future and told him to have at it, absorb the twins, and become the ultimate life form that he was created to be. Before they even knew it, Cell launched himself at Android 18. 13 throws his hat at Gero and tells him to take good care of it as he bulks up into his super state. Super Android 13 bulldozes into 17, which takes the wind out of him. Fasha and Piccolo tried to do what they could to get them away from the twins. They were extremely overwhelmed. Gero ordered 16 to attack as well, but he hesitated. He had spent so much time with the twins that something deep inside him was compelling him to stop. But Gero continued to bark orders at him. Meanwhile, in the tundra, Goku wakes up. He jumps to his feet, ready to throw a punch, but realizes that he's at Suno's home. With Ader, he was very cold. He felt like he had just been revived. And in a way he was. He was nearly dead. As Suno explained, she had to dive down, get him out, and Ader had to shock his heart back. But he was okay. Goku cursed. He couldn't believe that he let himself be defeated by that android. But that transformation, that was something impressive. What he needed to do now is return to the lookout and train himself to be above him. But first, he needed to do what he came here for. He looked over at Ader, asking him if he was willing to go to Capsule Corp and get himself examined by Bulma and Fasha. Fasha, after all, was a mechanic, and she was very interested in this sort of thing. Ader agreed. He had recognized that android. He was nothing but lines of code when Ader was finished, but he knew that number, Android 13. If Ader could do anything to help Goku out, he would. He also asked if he could get his bomb taken out from inside of him. He thought it was a miracle that hadn't exploded yet. Remember, in the manga, they never took out Ader's bomb, so he's just been living there with a bomb inside of him the entire time. It's kinda weird. Goku thanks Suno, telling her that he'd visit soon. He teleported over to Capsule Corp, leaving Ader in the care of Dr. Briefs. Goku returned to the lookout after dropping off Ader, and he happily looked around, but then realized that Gohan was looking worried. Then, Tora yelled at Goku, chastising him for making him worry so much. Goku told him that he was as good as he could be after getting beat up by that android. Tora sighs and looks at Goku in the eyes, telling him that he wouldn't know what to do if anything happened to him. Goku smiled, and then he got pulled into a hug by Chi-Chi. Goku screams in pain. He hasn't fully healed just yet, but he asked what Chi-Chi's doing up there. She explains that some people came to visit her, and then she appeared over here. Goku couldn't imagine who would visit at this time, and then he realized she was almost taken hostage by Dr. Gero. After getting healed by Dende, Goku explains to everyone what had happened in the tundra. Tora, Borgos, and even Tien feel weak and useless. They were warriors, and yet their enemies never seemed to stop getting stronger. Goku reassured his friends that there was a way to get stronger quickly. Had they forgotten? They still had the Room of Spirit and Time. Goku asked Gohan if he'd like to go with him, but the fighters at the lookout start to notice drastic changes in ki. The battle in Mount Pautsu was really starting to heat up. Could feel an enormous monstrous ki. Tora told Goku that he and Gohan needed to go training ASAP. Goku agreed, as he and his son started to get ready to go into the chamber. Borgos and Tien gritted their teeth. There was nothing they could do. Were they really expected to stay in the lookout this entire time and watch their friends die? Tien yelled out that he wouldn't do that. He couldn't stand back. Borgos silently nodded. Tora tried to talk them out of it. They were adamant in leaving. Borgos looked at Tora, just for a moment. That moment seemed like an eternity. He gave him a weak smile. Before he could say anything else, Tien and Borgos jumped off the tower and rocketed towards the battlefield. Super 13 locked 17 into a bear hug. As he yelled out for Cell, supper was ready. Cell wastes no time in extending his tail and swallowing 17 whole. Cell glows and transforms into his semi-perfect state. He feels a rush of new power and stares at 18. She was next. Fasha and Piccolo step up, telling her to run. The pair try their best to hold off Cell, but they stand even less of a chance against this demon. Cell tossed both of the fighters aside like a rag, telling 13 to take care of them. He extends his tail over to 18, but 2 fighters appear before him, Tien and Borgos. Gero grits his teeth. Another Saiyan? This was starting to get ridiculous. Cell laughs at Tien for showing his face, and 13 looks quietly over at Borgos, while he smashes Piccolo's and Fasha's face against each other. This guy wasn't in Gero's database. Borgos was shaking violently. He looked over at Fasha, who was lying bloody on the floor. He then looked over at Piccolo, who reminded him so much of his master, Nail. Pure, seething rage was building up within Borgos. Then, snap. He roared and trees beneath him began to shake, with birds flying away in panic. His key burst open, and his hair turned golden. He looked at Cell and 13 with a vicious glare. They wouldn't get away with hurting his friends. Gero nearly made his palm bleed as he balled up his fist. A Super Saiyan bargain sale. Borgos yelled at 18 to get herself and his friends out of there, as he fires an enormous mouth beam straight to Cell and 13. Tien can't stand by and launches a huge Shin Kikoho to assist Borgos. They both continue to fire their blasts repeatedly as the ground and the entire mountainside shakes. 16 grabs Gero and jumps back away from the battle, saying that the blasts were far too dangerous for the doctor. When the blasting ceases and the dust settles, both Borgos and Tien pant as they look at their crater, but it did nothing. All they heard was 13 yell out for his lost hat. Suddenly, Super 13 appeared in front of the 2 fighters. He punched them both in the gut and knocked out Borgos out of Super Saiyan in an instant. He then slams their heads together just like he did before and threw them over to the mountain forest. Super 13 turns around and yells at Cell, asking if he's alright. Cell limps out of the crater after finishing his regeneration. Super 13 says that it's time to track down 18, but to their surprise, Vegeta and Trunks arrive at the scene. Cell laughs, asking if he really thinks the prince could stand a chance. Vegeta confidently states that he's going to kill him and his boyfriend right away. He powers up into Super Saiyan and rushes at Cell. Super 13 attempts to intervene, but he's stopped by Trunks, who coldly tells the machine that he'll be his opponent this time. Super Vegeta battles with semi-perfect Cell, similarly to how it went in canon. Vegeta dominates the android. Additionally, Super 13 is getting destroyed by Trunks. Gero looks in shock and fear. He damned the world and yelled out that this is not how it's supposed to end. If only they had found 18 in time, if only Cell could achieve his perfect form. Vegeta hears this and slowly flies towards him. He asks what this perfect form is and if it would be a real challenge. A sinister smile from the old man's face comes. He tells Vegeta that if Cell were to absorb 18, that he'd face an opponent like no other. This convinces Vegeta and agrees to help locate Android 18. Trunks begs his father to listen to reason and attempts to stop Cell, but this time both Super 13 and Vegeta prevent him from intervening. He yells at 13 that he doesn't need help from scrap metal as he blasts down an SS deadly bomber that consumes Trunks. The Doctor and his creations locate 18, hiding behind a waterfall. With no way to escape, she yells out at 16 for help. 16 looks on as the cries of 18 are being ignored. 16 clenches his fist and Cell absorbs 18. The area is engulfed in blinding white light as Perfect Cell is born. Trunks looks on in horror and Vegeta fills with excitement. Finally, a worthy challenger. Vegeta smirks as he points his thumb at himself, offering to give Cell a chance. Cell obliges, beating the lights out of Vegeta. Trunks transforms into Grade 3, getting in the way of the fight, but this isn't nearly enough to take on Perfect Cell. 13 and the injured heroes look in disbelief. Gero laughs maniacally. This was his ultimate android. 13 glared at him, then looked back. Nothing could stop him now. Cell finished beating on Trunks and throws him to the feet of his father, bored at the performance they displayed. Tora had felt enough, asking Shugesh to take him over there. They needed to buy enough time for Goku and Gohan to finish their training. Even if they're killed, they were the only hope. Shugesh told everyone to grab on. Tora, Krillin, and a frightened Yamcha grabbed onto Shugesh, locking onto the key of the weakened Trunks. The group arrives on the scene with no chance of winning. They still get into their battle stances. 13 laughs, sweat falls down Krillin's face, and Yamcha gulps. Shugesh grits his teeth and yells out that even if they're going to die, they'll fight for their friends. The remaining Z-Fighters roar as they lunge at Cell and Super 13. It goes about as you expect. As the androids decimate their reinforcements, Super 13 laughs, but Cell doesn't say anything. In fact, he looks rather bored. Tora notices that Cell isn't satisfied with the battle. He's super disappointed that these weak fighters showed up. He was expecting Goku instead, but he had Krillin and Yamcha. He received all this power, and this was the resistance he gets? Tora continues getting smacked by Cell as 13 throws around Yamcha by the leg, but Cell looks like he's ready to kill them all. Tora weakly asks a question, saying, "Are you really okay with ending things like this?" Cell asks what that means, and Tora smiles, coughing up some blood. He explains that he may not be really smart, he knows that he's got Saiyan genes inside of him, and he feels it. The need for battle, the need to fight strong opponents, and push by his limits, to fight a real challenge. 13 comes up behind Cell, telling him to get this over with, but Cell puts a hand to stop 13, telling Tora to go on. The Saiyan casts the bait. He tells the bio-android that if he gives them a few days, Cell will be able to face a real challenge, a powered-up Goku that would finally be able to give him a real thrill. Hell, give him a few days and everyone there could defeat him. Then they'll have a true battle like nothing they've ever seen before. Gero yells from afar, asking out loud what's taking his creation so long to kill these pests. Cell is quiet, thinking to himself. He smiles before dropping a bloody Tora on the floor and walking over to Gero, telling him the idea. Gero laughs. This was a perfect plan, and it would give him time to upgrade 13 to meet these new challenges. He told them that they would make a special announcement soon, to be on the lookout. He then ordered 16, 13, and Cell to take him to a specific location. The only one that was still conscious was Trunks, and with what little energy he had left, he took his father up to the lookout. He could barely stand, and asked Mr. Popo to take everyone up. They only had a few days. Dende healed them both. Every single fighter felt utterly defeated, and a looming sense of dread overshadowed any progress they made. Super 13 was powerful, but Cell, he was on an entirely different level. And that 16 guy, who knows how powerful he is? No doubt Gero was going to upgrade at least 13, since he had gotten damaged. Everyone was left speechless, except for Goku and Gohan, who stepped out of the chamber. He seemed calm. Everyone informed him, but he didn't seem worried. Goku puts his hands on Yamcha and Krillin, thanking them for their bravery and for standing up for their friends. He also looked at Tora and Shugesh, nodding. This reminds Tora of his conversation with Cell. The remaining fighters will go into the Room of Spirit and Time, and Goku can go as many times as he wants. He's their only hope. Goku tells Tora that he and Gohan will be taking it easy for the next few days, but he wishes everyone luck. Before anyone can ask why, Fasha grabs Piccolo and drags him into the room, saying adamantly that she'll never be weak again. Shugesh laughs. Poor Nail. Later that day, they all head to Capsule Corp to check on Bulma's progress with Ader. Fasha's being very attentive to the operation. It'll be interesting to see how advanced Earthling technology is compared to the rest of the universe. Meanwhile, Krillin turns on the TV in the waiting room, and Gohan switches channels until seeing breaking news. Just like Gero had promised, he and his creations hijacked 3 different news stations, ZTV, Super TV, and GTTV, to announce the Red Ribbon World Tournament. Whoever wins the tournament will be given the honor to face against Cell and 13, along with a chance to live in the New World Order. They finish their announcements by destroying the news station. The heroes looked on in fear, but Goku reassures them that it'll be okay. The following week, the remaining Z-Fighters went in and out of the Room of Spirit and Time. Fasha and Piccolo trained intensely during their time there, and Piccolo grew closer with her, acknowledging her progress, and Fasha hugged him tightly. Piccolo blushed. He didn't really understand her feelings, but maybe not even his own at this point. He thought to himself whether this was the nail in him, or if it was really Piccolo. He kept it to himself, but Fasha smiled. Piccolo and Fasha left the chamber the following day. Everyone was amazed at the power they accumulated. They were leagues above what they were yesterday. Tora also noticed something else. Fasha and Piccolo acted a little different. It was weird. Borgos laughs, and Shugesh demands to know what the hell's happening. Tora shakes his head. Afterwards, Shugesh and Tora went into the chamber. Shugesh taught Tora what he knew about spirit control, along with helping him further refine his Super Saiyan state. Tora was amazed by what the Yardra Fasha had taught him, and wonder if amplifying his ki with this new technique would make his attacks strong enough to harm Cell. By the end of it, he could teleport as well. Shortly after they departed the chamber, Borgos decided to go in next, but he didn't have a partner. After seeing the bravery he displayed during the final attacks against the androids, Borgos asked Tien if he'd like to be his partner. Tien gladly accepts. Their training provided them incredible results as well, with Tien even learning a few Namekian techniques. Borgos enjoyed teaching others the techniques of his family, as he wondered if he could teach the Namekian warriors back home how to go beyond their limits as well. During the time before the Cell games, Tora chooses to chill out a little more with Gohan and Goku, while the others train. He didn't know why, but he could tell that Goku had something under his sleeve. Shugesh isn't having any of it, and wants them to keep training, not only for Cell, for whatever this Majin guy was, but nothing really gets through to them. Goku tells Shugesh that overworking their bodies with any more high-intensity training will just make things worse. Reluctantly, Shugesh concedes. Maybe they should rest a bit. Chi-Chi even invites the older Saiyans to a picnic with their family. They all had a lot of fun. Eating with Goku and his friends reminded Tora of their times together with Bardock. This was the peace they were fighting for. This was the peace that Bardock died for. Tora asked his friends quietly about Gohan. They all agreed that they had never really seen or heard a Saiyan as young as him becoming as strong as he is. As a Super Saiyan already. They all saw the power he had during that battle against Frieza and the androids. Tora stares at Gohan, who is laughing happily with his dad. What if he was stronger than his father? Meanwhile, Gero had Cell, 16, and 13 built a tournament arena within the old ruins of the Red Ribbon Army base, the one that Goku had destroyed. He also fixed up and upgraded Android 13. He was a lot stronger now, and even included the absorption mechanism that he and number 19 had. Eventually, 10 days passed, and the day of fate arrived. Bulma and Fasha had finally finished studying Ader. Not only did they remove the bomb, but they also created a remote control tuned to Android 13. Bulma said that if it was tuned to the twins, they would have most likely blown up, but 13's hardware was so different from the twins, or Ader, that they weren't even sure what would happen. At best, she reasoned that the remote would only be able to short-circuit him. After all, she wasn't even sure if there was a bomb within him. She advised Krillin and the rest to use it as a last resort. Bulma also gave Trunks the hilt of his broken sword. She wasn't able to fix it in time, but Trunks thanked her for keeping it safe. He grabbed onto it and placed it on the sheath on his back. The Z-Fighters gathered together at the spot Dr. Gero had chosen as the grounds for the tournament, the ruins of the former Red Ribbon Army. In the courtyard of the destroyed facility was a large white marble ring. Dr. Gero stood tall in front of his most powerful creations. 13 and 16 stood side by side with the Doctor, standing tall as his guards, while Cell positioned himself in the center of the ring. Surrounding him were 5 small blue creatures that looked just like him, Cell Juniors. The remaining Z-Fighters arrived, with an impatient Fasha firing a blast at Dr. Gero, only for it to be slammed away by Android 16. The Doctor told everyone to calm down, that everything will come in due time. Gero welcomes everyone as the world news watches. Gero sits down on his makeshift throne, explaining the rules. There were too many fighters, so first they would have to have preliminary rounds, fighting amongst themselves before fighting Gero's finest creations. The warriors will choose their best. Mr. Satan burst through the gates, throwing his cape over Shugesh. The pompous man laughed loudly, proclaiming the defeat of this gyro doctor and the trucker. Gero simply lifted his shoulders and allowed him to enter. Every circus needs a clown after all. After some deliberation amongst the fighters, a lineup of their best were chosen. The preliminary matches were as follows: Tora vs Trunks, Goku vs Vegeta, Gohan vs Piccolo, Fasha vs Mr. Satan. The first battle was Tora and Trunks. The older Saiyan recognized that Trunks was the stronger fighter between the two, and respects him greatly, but he makes him promise not to go easy on him. He wants a true battle. Glancing over at Gohan, the tournament began, with both fighters clashing in the middle of the ring. Cell keeps his eyes closed. Trunks caught Tora's arm and threw him to the ground. What he didn't expect was Tora using instant transmission to disappear behind Trunks, grabbing him by the armor and slamming him down. Shugesh had taught him some Yardrian tricks. While in the time chamber, Shugesh even had time to further refine his spirit control and finally master some more advanced techniques. Trunks responded instantly, spinning on his back to trip over Tora. Tora jumped to his feet, but was met with Trunks bursting into Super Saiyan just for a second and being blasted out of bounds. Next up was the fight which Cell finally opened his eyes for: Vegeta vs Goku. The two stepped up to the ring, silent, without even saying a word. Both turned into Super Saiyans. In that instant, every camera in the venue exploded, while Dr. Gero was protected by 16 from the various pieces of rubble that flew everywhere. Mr. Satan couldn't believe what he was watching. When Goku stepped out of the chamber, he had commented that Vegeta was still way too weak. He was going to prove him wrong. However, though Goku wanted to enjoy the battle to the max, he knew that he had to win. He had to advance to the next round. At one point, Goku and Vegeta reached a stalemate, in the center of the ring, pushing each other. Vegeta slammed his head against Goku, sending him back. He was about to fire a final flash. It's too dangerous, there's civilians everywhere. So without much of a choice, Goku responded with his own Kamehameha. Goku didn't want to overwhelm Vegeta, but he had no choice. As soon as the blast crashed, the Kamehameha ate the final flash, and Vegeta was sent spiraling out of the arena. Shugesh heals them both, having just mastered the Yardrian technique in the Room of Spirit and Time to heal. Vegeta shoves him off at first, though eventually he lets himself be healed. Vegeta was furious. Not at Goku, but at himself. Kakarot was right, he was still weaker than him. Shugesh could feel the anger and loathing festering within Vegeta. He was worried now more than ever that the prince was going to go down a dark path. He saw it in himself once before. If they survive this, he'll do anything he can to save Prince Vegeta. Gohan and Piccolo were next. Piccolo was very proud of his student, and now Gohan had to prove to his master that he could stand on his own as a warrior who didn't need to be saved. This was a rite of passage. Piccolo goes up to Gohan and asks if he's sure he wants to fight. Gohan is hesitant, but looks over at his father, Trunks, and Tora. He nodded at Piccolo. The two began as they both took off their capes. They could predict each other's moves perfectly. Piccolo brought up every single technique he hadn't used in a while, stretching his arms, using multiform, Hellzone grenades, even a special beam cannon. To his surprise, Gohan had counters for nearly every one of these, and he defeats Piccolo by grabbing his outstretched arm and sending him out of the ring. The last preliminary round was Fasha versus Mr. Satan. She had no patience for this, and instantly rushed in against him before he could finish gloating. She flicked him on the head and was sent flying off. Anyways, now it was time for the real battles. Goku wanted to go first, facing off against Android 16. Then it would be Fasha versus Cell, 13 versus Trunks, and finally Gohan versus Cell Jr. Gohan was a little embarrassed to be put up against a just then created fighter. Goku smirked at 16, explaining that he's gotten a lot stronger since the last time they met. He better not pull any punches. 16 didn't respond. The fight started like the first one, with Goku firing a blast, which 16 reflected. The android rushed up to Goku, grabbing him to slam him down. However, this time Goku spins and kicks 16 in the face. Goku uses afterimage to appear to be everywhere, until firing a Kamehameha at 16's face. The android didn't expect it, and he barely dodges out of the way, but he's immediately punched in the face by Goku, who sends him crashing down towards the arena. 16 stands back up, and before he can even think, Goku rushes towards him, continuing to attack with a meteor combination. Each punch sends a minor shockwave over the arena, as Goku finishes the combo with a powerful blow in the gut. 16 staggers back. It seems like a giant would fall. He stands back up and makes eye contact with Goku. Even to Goku's surprise, 16 smirks. Goku talked to him during the battle, saying that he didn't seem like a bad guy, and he promised to get 18 and 17 out from within Cell. In response, 16 stopped all the punches and looked at Goku. He asked if the Saiyan promised, and Goku nodded. Nobody heard this. They simply whispered it. 16 smiled and took off his arm to fire a cannon blast at Goku. The Saiyan disappeared and appeared behind 16, grabbing onto him and slamming him outside of the ring. He was going to get back up, his programming to kill Goku kicking in, but Cell put his hand out, stopping him. Gero raised an eyebrow. Why was his creation telling his son what to do? Next up is Cell versus Fasha. Finally, the ultimate android would get to show off a little bit. He wasn't going to go easy on her. Fasha counted on that. Fasha burst into her Super Saiyan form and relentlessly attacked Cell. Every punch pushed him further and further back. It seemed as if Cell wasn't able to dodge her flurry of blows. Fasha chuckled. She was going to win, but Cell merely laughed. Was that all she had? Cell grabbed onto Fasha's hair and slammed his knee against her face, similarly to how she had defeated Android 19. The Saiyan was disoriented from that single attack, and Cell threw her up to the sky with his fingers. He slashed upwards, cutting Fasha sharply, blood and pieces of armor raining into the ring. The attack was so intense that it knocks Fasha back down to her base form. The Saiyans couldn't simply stand by and watch this, could they? Tora clenched his fist, looking over at Borgos and Shugesh, but it was Piccolo who stepped up and stopped the attack from continuing to hit Fasha. Piccolo gathered all his energy into a karate chop that slammed the unsuspecting Cell in the back of the neck. Cell was sent across the arena. Piccolo then flew up to catch the falling Fasha. Cell yelled at Piccolo to go away. He was already out of the tournament. He used his telekinesis to bring Piccolo crashing down to the ground. A furious Fasha went over to him, grabbing him by the gi, demanding to know why he stopped their match. Piccolo pushed her off, saying that he wasn't just going to stand by and watch her die. Fasha stopped as she told him thanks. But before them, three figures appeared: Shugesh, Borgos, and Tora. They looked back at Piccolo, saying, "Not to worry, Nail. we've got this. Piccolo's eyes widened and Fasha stood by them. All of them but Shugesh transformed into Super Saiyans and rushed in at Cell. The bio-android happily declared that if this is what they wanted, then it's now a free-for-all. He pointed his arm out forward, and the Cell Juniors, along with Android 13, rushed in at the rest of the fighters. It was an all-out brawl, where the heroes were on the losing end. Cell takes all 4 Saiyans on easily. Even if they've gotten stronger, they stand a little chance against him. At times he has some trouble because of their numbers. And Tora and Shugesh's teleporting was rather annoying, but one by one they were taken down. They had no choice but to fall back. Gero stopped it all by screaming that this was his tournament, his chance to show the world the might of the Red Ribbon Army. There will be order. That's when he felt a blast hit the side of his head. A Cell Jr. had blasted at him and nearly blown him to pieces. Gero looked at him in fear and then back at Cell. Why hadn't he stopped the Cell Jr. from attacking? Cell stepped towards the doctor, explaining that he was a malevolent android and that he only wanted what was best for the doctor. Being in this imperfect body, existing as a mere brain in a robotic jar, was disgusting. He was going to do him a favor and send him to a better place. He would do that for everyone, actually. He was very generous. Cell raised up a hand and aimed it at Dr. Gero. That's when 13 and 16 stepped in the way. Cell smirked. This was going to be fun. He told the Cell Juniors to attack the Z-Fighters once more while he took care of the scrap metal. The tournament had turned into a war zone. Blasts flew everywhere as the sounds and yells of explosions filled the arena. 16 and 13 proved to be a lot more trouble than the Saiyans. 13 absorbed some of Cell's energy, and this angered him greatly, slapping 13 far off. Cell began to take steps towards Gero, and 16 took this chance to jump on Cell's back. Cell was trying to shove him off, while 16 yelled at Dr. Gero to run away, but Gero knew what he was doing. He begged 16 not to do it. He couldn't stand to watch his son die again, even calling Gebo, his own son's name. But it was too late. 16 was going to explode. Goku, Tora, and Shugesh grabbed onto whoever they could and teleported away. They were able to save all the fighters, including Mr. Satan. Gero's eyes filled with tears as he watched Android 16 smile at him. The Z-Fighters looked back and watched as the Red Ribbon Army base exploded in an enormous mushroom cloud, and even from that far away, they were pushed back. The Z-Fighters returned to the arena. Nothing was left. But wait, Cell was there. He was regenerating. That hadn't done the trick. And Android 13 was standing over where Dr. Gero once stood. But without Gero, what could he do? It was as if something snapped within him. He was no longer a slave to his programming. He had individuality. He now wanted to prove who was the true perfect android. He turned to look at the regenerating Cell. The bio-android sped towards him, telling him to wait. They can battle later. They first need to take care of the trash. He looked around. The Cell Juniors were gone. It was only the both of them. This wasn't over yet. Goku, Gohan, and Bardock's squad rushed in towards Cell, but it was as if him regenerating only made him stronger. Goku told Tora and the rest to back off. They were already far too damaged. And although they fought together, Goku noticed that Gohan was struggling. He wasn't pushing himself all the way. Meanwhile, everyone else fought against Super Android 13. Trunks was glad to get another opportunity at the fighter. Gohan slowly begins to reveal a little bit more of his power, which surprises everyone except for Goku and Tora. Piccolo and the other fighters work together to deal significant blows on 13, but every time they get too close, their energy's absorbed. Cell wants Gohan to take the battle seriously and show him his true power, so in order to get Gohan angry, Cell decides to go all out. First, it's Goku, and is about to kill him right in front of Gohan, but he stopped when a blast hits the side of his head. It was Dr. Gero. He was incredibly damaged. His arms were destroyed. His skin was blown off. It was just a robotic metal exoskeleton underneath. Cell asked the doctor how the hell he survived. When 16 self-destructed, Gero attempted to absorb the incoming blast. It worked. It lessened the impact, but he was gravely injured, and his hands exploded, and he was sent flying off. He told the doctor he'd put an end to his mystery, and he plans to keep his word. Gero shouts angrily that he should have never built these androids. He now sees that his desire for revenge cost him too much. His humanity, his son, if he wasn't so focused on his ego, on his hatred. 16. No, his son would still be alive. Cell's smile turned into a frown. He can't believe all of this asinine drivel spewing from the doctor's mouth. He's starting to sound like one of these foolish humans. Cell drops Goku as he suddenly appears in front of Gero, picking him up and locking him into a bear hug. Cell is going to crush Gero to death. With his final words, Gero pleads to Goku and Gohan to stop his creation and save the world his son loved so dearly. Then, crack. A loud snap echoed through the devastated landscape. Everyone looked at Cell. He let go, and the arms of the lifeless body of Dr. Gero slumped down towards the ground. Goku was angry. Cell didn't have to kill him. He was helpless. But Gohan, he was absolutely livid. Despite everything Gero had done, Gohan couldn't help but empathize with him. He just wanted his son back, and Cell took that away from him. He was tired of seeing all this death. Gohan unleashed a mighty roar that echoed across the barren wasteland. His hair spiked up, lightning danced around his aura. Gohan had ascended beyond. Before he realized it, Cell was punched. From then on, it was all a blur. Gohan uppercutted Cell up to the sky and blasted him up. He punched him so hard back down that it created a crater. It didn't matter if this thing was perfect. If he was a super perfect Cell, didn't matter. Super 13 and the remaining heroes are in disbelief. The battle resumes as Gohan yells at Cell that he won't get away with this. Super 13 realizes that he's just wasting time and returns to fighting the remaining Z fighters. In a strange twist of events, Gohan and Cell punch each other, their fists clashing. In that moment, both their arms broke. Both of them staggered back. They had to end this quickly. All the sound around Gohan disappeared for a second. All he could focus on was Cell saying Kame. Gohan responded immediately with his own Kamehameha. Goku and Piccolo's eyes widened. This was the moment. Goku jumped behind his son, putting an arm where Gohan's other arm should be, supporting the Kamehameha. But even this doesn't seem to be enough. Tora sees that Goku and Gohan are in trouble, but Super 13 won't let him or anyone else interfere in Cell's battle. Suddenly, Fasha, Shugesh, Borgos, Vegeta, and Trunks grab onto Super 13, restraining him. Shugesh yells at him to go. Tora thanks everyone, flying off to the site of the beam struggle, transforming one last time into a Super Saiyan. Tora looks at the massive clash before him. He's momentarily overwhelmed at the level of power and display. He wonders if he can even do anything against such an overwhelming monster. This is how Bardock must have felt when he tried to stand up against Frieza. Alone. Helpless. He looked over at Goku and Gohan, and for a second, a mirage of someone else appeared behind them. Someone familiar to Tora, and it looked like they locked eyes. He could recognize that scar anywhere. Bardock was behind them all this whole time. He didn't know if this was real, but it was the motivation he needed. Tora grits his teeth and shakes his head before looking at his hand. No, he wasn't alone. His family, friends, everyone was there, fighting together for a better tomorrow. Images of Bardock, Fasha, Shugesh, Borgos, Gohan, Goku, Nail, Dende, Trunks, Vegeta, Krillin, even the Grand Elder. Those images flooded into his mind as a ball of dense ki formed in his hand. Tora gathers every ounce of ki into his body, amplifying it with spirit control. Bardock may not have been able to change the future, but his squad will. His family will. Tora yells out, everything. Launching Bardock's signature move, the Ryo Javelin. It explodes on contact, and the force of the blast was enough to hurt Cell. He looked around to see Tora shaking in midair, smiling before falling to the ground. Cell curses at Tora, and in that moment, he let his guard down. Goku, Gohan, maybe even Bardock, use this opening to unleash all their power. The Kamehameha engulfs Cell as the ultimate life form is finally defeated. Goku and Gohan collapse to the ground, dropping to their base forms. They couldn't move anymore. Tora couldn't either. The heroes celebrate briefly before an SS deadly bomber strikes from above. Super 13 was still alive. Krillin tries to take out the remote control and use it, but 13 recognizes what he's doing. He lunges at Krillin as the remote control falls from his hand onto the rubble below. The other fighters tried to retrieve it, but they were stopped at every turn by 13. He's able to easily sweep aside nearly all the remaining fighters. The heroes lay on the ground, injured, near death, as Super 13 laughs triumphantly. He had finally proven to himself to be the ultimate android after all. He declared that he's going to kill everyone before destroying the entire planet. However, from the scattered bodies and beaten fighters, a single hero weakly stands up. Trunks. Despite his various injuries and shaky legs, Trunks picked himself back up.
No. There's no way I'd let you androids destroy another timeline. I won't let you. I'll keep fighting for my future. For their future. As long as I keep breathing.
Super 13 stares at him before smiling. He could easily change that. Trunks and Super 13 rush at each other, slamming their fists against one another, creating enormous shockwaves. The only thing the worn-down heroes could do was lay there and watch. Everyone from Goku to Tora and the other fighters tried to stand up as well, but they just couldn't, no matter how hard they tried. Trunks tries his best against the behemoth, but he's starting to lose the second wind. Super 13 catches a punch from Trunks and kicks his arm in. Trunks howls in pain as 13 prepares to land a finishing blow. Vegeta looks on at his son. He was about to get killed right in front of him. No. Shugesh puts a hand on Vegeta's shoulder. He could see the rage within him, but he was trying to get him to channel it onto something positive, just telling him to save his son. Vegeta's rage reached the tipping point as his fury explodes, launching himself off the ground and tackling 13 away from Trunks. Fueled by this anger towards himself and his feelings to protect his son, Vegeta has entered a berserk rage. Goku looked over at Trunks. The time traveler had broken his arm and was clearly on his last legs, but despite this, he somehow found the strength to stand back up. Goku remembered back to when he first saw Gohan's potential many years ago. Trunks had the same potential within him, he just needed an extra little boost. Goku had an idea, yelling at everyone to give as much ki as possible to Trunks while they still can. The Earthlings, the Saiyans, and Piccolo stretched their arms out, giving energy, every single last drop of ki inside of them. It almost seems like it's not going to be enough for a second, until Gohan lifts his arm up. A little wave of ki runs up to Trunks. His eyes sparkle, energy coursing through his veins. While Vegeta does his best to hold back 13, Trunks returns and manages to deal one clean punch at the robot. Unlike before, Super 13 is finally starting to lose his ground. The combined efforts of this father and son pair was simply astonishing. 13 sees that there's no chance of him to win, so he grabs on tightly to Trunks and sets up a barrier. He laughs maniacally, saying that if he's going to die, he's going to take Trunks with him. He prepares to activate the bomb inside of him, and he roars. Nothing happens. 13 is shocked. Why isn't his bomb going off? He looks around and spots the injured Krillin from inside a crater, chuckling weakly while he's pressing down the button on the remote control.
Oh no, you're not getting off that easy. That was for 18.
Super 13 sweats, while Trunks breaks free from 13's grab and punches him in the gut. Vegeta, still enraged, begins to pound at the barrier rapidly with his bloody knuckles. He screams out that he should never underestimate the Saiyans, shattering the barrier like glass. 13 panics and yells at them to stay back. He starts setting up even more barriers as Trunks holds up his broken sword. Vegeta grabs onto the sword, looking up at his son, telling him that they'll do it together. Trunks nods and stares at 13.
Tell me, 13, do androids feel fear?
Vegeta and Trunks poured every ounce of ki onto the sword. With all the energy Trunks had been given to, plus Vegeta, the sword begins to shine bright as it looks like the blade is being completed, piercing through the android barrier and stabbing through 13. All the ki in the sword immediately shot out onto 13, who gets sliced in half and explodes. Finally, it was over. The threat of the androids was done. Walked up to Gohan and gave him a thumbs up. In reality, he was really looking at his master, thanking him for his help. Soon afterwards, everyone met at the lookout, wishing for everyone that was killed by Cell to be brought back to life, except for the bad guys, of course. Krillin also wished for the bombs within 18 and 17 to be removed as well. Everyone thanked each other. This had been a crazy adventure, but they were glad it's finally over. Goku hugged Chi-Chi tightly, thanking her for her patience and that he was sorry that she had almost been kidnapped. In fact, their last wish was to bring back Goku's home. It had been destroyed after all. Soon after, everybody started to say goodbye. Tien explained that he'd probably not see them for a long time. And Shugesh? Well, he wanted to explore space a bit more. He made everyone promise that they would continue training for the arrival of Babidi, whenever that would be, but he needed to investigate a little more. So, he left once more. When Trunks was about to leave, Tora offered to go with him, but Borgos stopped him, saying that Bardock's family really needed him around. So instead, he would go with. He would help rebuild the future, and maybe eventually even go to future Namek. Spent a little time there before returning. Tora asked if his friend was sure about this, and he was. He wanted to help rebuild Trunks' future with him. He was very proud of this boy. Trunks reluctantly agreed, but he knew that they would need help. The time machine disappeared. Back at the present, Piccolo and Fasha began to roam the earth, just as they had done before. But this time, Piccolo didn't find her as annoying, and they were at the very least challenging opponents for one another. Goku invited Tora to live with him, but he said that he liked another place a little better. He ended up living at the lookout with Mr. Popo and Dende. He already knew Dende for a long time from before Frieza's attack, and he asked Mr. Popo what he could do to help. He wanted to be part of Earth. He wanted to help Dende and protect Bardock's family. And so, Dende sits on Tora's shoulder, looking down from the lookout. He's watching over everything on Earth, but Tora focuses in on one small house, Kakarot's home. He smiled, thinking of his friend, Bardock. He promised that he would continue to keep his family safe as much as he could. Peace has returned to Earth. Following the battle against the androids, Goku and Vegeta continue their mission to become the strongest in the world. The Saiyan squadron has been divided through the universe. While Fasha and Tora remain on Earth, Borgos has gone to the future along with Trunks, in order to help him reconstruct Earth and along the way, find new planet Namek. Asking Porunga to rebuild Earth, to its former glory. Meanwhile, Shugesh decides to take the stars once more. His mission has been to prepare the Saiyans for the possible resurrection of Majin Buu, as he found out about the monster's existence many years ago. He now searches the universe for more answers. Before he left, however, he helped Vegeta undergo some training. He taught the prince many spiritual and key focus techniques. This is because Shugesh saw himself in Vegeta and knew that Vegeta was a better person than he let on. When he eventually departed, he hoped that the prince would remember his training, reflecting on his past and overcoming his personal demons. Fasha and Piccolo continued their training in the highlands, living together as nomads for many years. But as time passed, they slowly settled down in the lands under the lookout, a place where Piccolo could be close to Dende while living by himself. Fasha didn't mind. She understood that having personal space was important, but she made sure to camp close by anyways, so she could always keep training with Piccolo. She even got along with the Karinga tribe, whose warrior-centered culture she enjoyed and respected. Borgos returned from the future and told everyone about his adventures, and how he watched Trunks defeat the future androids and Cell. Borgos meets with Tora and Dende at the lookout. Tora had decided to watch over Earth along with Dende as his new assistant, in order to safeguard the planet Goku and his family loved so dearly. After reminiscing on their past on Namek, and their battles against the androids, Borgos decides it's time to head back home. After receiving directions from Dende and a new ship from Bulma, Borgos bids farewell to his friends as he heads off to New Namek, but not before telling Fasha and Tora that they would meet again. Thus, peace reignited. Goku and Chi-Chi had another son, Goten, who spent a lot of time with Tora at the lookout. Goten called him Grandpa Tora because he sometimes acted like an overprotective old geezer. Meanwhile, Trunks was a big fan of Fasha, who didn't treat him like a child, and would often spar with her whenever Goku and Vegeta were busy training together. Gohan even goes to Tora for help about a girl at school, Videl, but Tora is hopeless when it comes to girls. Fasha tells him to never go to him again because she will help him instead, and sure enough, Fasha's suggestions worked out. The pair would go to the land of Korin to train together alongside Piccolo and Fasha. Fasha liked Videl. She was a tenacious fighter, just like her. She also noticed Videl's feelings for Gohan. She understands how thick-headed men can be while looking over at Piccolo and remembering Nail. She smiles and adds that, despite how frustrating things can be, it's worth it for the people you care about. Piccolo pretended not to hear, though his ears perked up. One night, while at the lookout, Tora and Dende got a message telepathically. It was Shugesh, explaining that he would be returning soon with some friends. Babidi was on the move, heading towards Earth. Tora was worried, but Shugesh told him to keep things quiet from Goku and the rest. Shugesh originally thought that Gohan would be the one to lead them to victory. However, he realized long ago that Gohan was a quiet and gentle boy who didn't want to fight. Gohan, his father, and the other fighters, they had been through too much already. So, it was just up to the original Bardock squad for this battle. Months passed by as Tora continued training and overseeing the events unfolding on Earth. He prayed that they would be strong enough to overcome whatever threat came their way. He swore to himself that he would keep Bardock's family safe, and he intended to continue keeping that promise. A few days before Shugesh was supposed to return, Borgos was messaged telepathically by Tora. Tora told his friends the details about the upcoming threat, and Borgos was more than happy to come lend his help. The day of the tournament arrived, and the Sea Fighters gathered together. Fasha and Piccolo were approached by Krillin and 18, who are still married in this timeline. While Krillin attempted to make small talk and Piccolo remained stoic as ever, Fasha and 18 stared each other down. After fighting so many times in the past, they had considered each other to be rivals. 18 asked Fasha if she was going to participate in the tournament, but Fasha laughed and shrugged her shoulders. Oh, that little pissing contest? It was a waste of time in her eyes. Most of the fighters here weren't even a challenge. Fasha looked at 18 with a smug grin, saying that if she wanted to play fight with those chums for some paltry cash, then that's her business. Besides, if she did join the tournament, there's no way that she'd let her win. Electricity sparkled between the two women's eyes as 18 challenged Fasha to a fight, calling her an old hag, as a vein popped in Fasha's forehead. Oh, they were going to have a battle alright. When this tournament is over, they'll settle the score once and for all. Krillin and even Piccolo looked in fear. Krillin whispered that women were a little scary, and Piccolo slowly nodded his head. What they didn't expect was Shugesh to show up with two mysterious strangers, but Piccolo's eyes widened as they approached. He recognized what they were, Hyoshin. Neither Shin nor Shugesh explained much, simply saying to have a good battle. Shugesh took Tora aside to explain the plan, but Tora seemed upset. Gohan looked at them from afar. It was clear they were talking about him. In reality, Tora was arguing with Shugesh that he would not allow Gohan to be attacked and used as bait. Shugesh tried to reason with him that this was bigger than any of them and that Gohan would be okay, but Tora wouldn't listen. When the matches finally began, Videl squared off against the brute Spopovich. Thankfully, thanks to her additional training and guidance from Fasha and Piccolo, Videl was far more powerful than she is in canon. Her aggressive fighting style complemented Fasha's techniques, while her tactical strikes and quick thinking echoed Piccolo's training. Thanks to this, Videl was actually able to defeat Spopovich. He was furious, and he almost blew his cover, but his partner, Yamu, held him back. No, the girl wouldn't provide the power they needed. They had to be patient. Surely a new fighter will appear that will meet their needs. Their patience paid off. When Gohan faces off against the enigmatic Kibito, he asked the boy to transform into a Super Saiyan 2, to which Gohan happily obliged. Seeing this incredible display of power, Yamu and Spopovich attacked. Tora knew this was coming, and he jumps in the way, but Shugesh gets a hold of his cape. Shin tries to tell him to calm down, but it is Goku who jumps in and attacks Yamu. It didn't matter, they had enough energy, and the pair blasted off. Gohan was okay, but Shin yelled at Tora. He finally explained the situation to everyone. Those were Babidi's minions, and they were on their way to revive Majin Buu. They can now follow them to this location. Goku and the others were confused, but Shugesh grabbed Goku's arm, telling him that he doesn't need to worry. That's why they didn't tell anyone, because this tournament is a time to enjoy themselves. He then turned to Fasha and Borgos, saying that it is up to their squad, let the old guard handle this. This was their battle to fight. Piccolo also spoke up, saying that he'd rather join the Saiyan in stopping Babidi than participate in the tournament. He was their master in another life, and it's only fitting that he'd be alongside them. Goku told them that he would help if things get out of control, and reluctantly agreed, because he was very excited to fight Vegeta once more. But he swore that if he sensed anything wrong, he would teleport over to them in a flash. Shugesh thanked him for everything, as the team, led by Tora and Shin, followed the Majins to Babidi's ship. But trouble begins right away, as the evil Demon King Dabura not only sees and kills Kibito, but spits on Tora and Piccolo. While Piccolo is helplessly turned into stone, Tora manages to take off his armor just in time. Fasha explodes in rage, but Dabura blips backwards before she can attack, inviting them onto the ship. These villains have been hyped up to be the strongest in the galaxy by Shugesh and the Kais, but their first match was a small fry. Shugesh was familiar with this race and planet. In fact, that was where he had first encountered the evil Babidi and his minions. This was the sum of many years of training. He had to win. It didn't take much. Despite not having Super Saiyan himself, Pui Pui was nothing. Shin smiled as he thought back to all the progress his comrade had made. The Supreme Kai had encountered Shugesh years ago, when their respected investigations of Babidi caused them to cross paths. Shin had taken a liking to Shugesh, seeing a flawed man who fought against the darkness in his heart, and overcame it to become someone better. He assisted him in investigating, and Shin even helped him train for the upcoming battles. Despite Kibito's protest, Pui Pui was blown to bits, and they moved on to the second stage. Yakon was a much more fearsome foe. The Saiyans felt weak as their ki was taken away. They kept asking themselves, what would Bardock do? This eventually evolved into, what would Goku do? That's when it hit Tora, who transformed into a Super Saiyan and poured all of his ki into Yakon, destroying him. It was time for their toughest challenge yet, Dabura. He felt similar and powered to the Incredible Cell, but Fasha was sure that he could take him on. She goes up to the bat, ready to avenge Piccolo. She immediately transformed into a Super Saiyan 2, and her powers shocked both Dabura and the Kai. She was doing well, fighting aggressively and keeping the pressure on Dabura, so that he was forced to stay on the defensive. He tried to spit on her, but she was way too fast. He attempted to counter the blows with a kick, but Fasha easily blocked it, saying that she knows a hot-headed, stubborn woman with blonde hair that throws kicks far stronger than that. Comparatively speaking, Fasha is probably more adept than the other four. Her constant training with Piccolo, Trunks, and Goku made sure that she would keep up with the mightiest foes. Tora hated to admit it, but he was now the second strongest in the squad. Shugesh was annoyed, demanding Tora to explain himself. Did he actually think he was stronger than him? As the two Saiyans bickered to Borgos' side as he looked on to the battle. Fasha was a marvel to watch. It was clear that she had been practicing some of Bardock's and Piccolo's moves. She stopped Dabura's sword with a spirit cannon and kept him at bay with a Hell Zone grenade. Dabura realized that they were fairly matched and informed Babidi of it. He could hold her off, but he wasn't sure if he could face all of them at once. Concerned that their power gathering would end quickly, Babidi analyzed the minds of the Saiyans. Though there were hints of evil in all of them, it was clear that he would not be able to possess them in their current state. He looked further, discovering an awesome battle between Goku and Vegeta going on in the tournament arena. That Vegeta guy had a dark aura, but his mind and heart were stronger than any other. His love for his family and his new home planet prevented Babidi from accessing his mind. Babidi concluded that he would have to pull out a more advanced technique, darker magic than unusual. If you're familiar with side stories like Shin Budokai or Budokai 2, you know that Babidi can do much more than take over minds in those stories. He can bring forth the dead simply from the memories of his adversaries, and he did just that. While looking into Fasha and Tora's mind, he finds fond memories of a powerful Saiyan warrior, one whom they trusted, and one whom they would fall to. A crack of lightning was heard across the plain as Dabura disappeared. Smoke surrounded them, and they found themselves in a familiar area. Planet Vegeta, their village. The smoke slowly dissipates to reveal the back of a man standing before them. The four Saiyans stood dead in their tracks. They recognized him instantly. Tora took a slow step towards him, saying his name. Bardock? The man turned to look at them. The hair, the scar, the armor. It was really him. They couldn't believe it, but his head was down. There was something wrong. Fasha started to run towards him, but Borgos grabbed her shoulder, stopping her. He said to feel his ki. Her eyes widened. It was dark, contaminated by evil. This was more like the Bardock from their youth, not the one that saved his son. No, it was even darker than that. Kaioshin had one response. This was Babidi's tricks. Forbidden black magic was used to revive a loved one and take control of them. Bardock smirked, slowly lifting his head up to reveal a dark M carved on his forehead. Bardock's voice echoed as he asked, why didn't they go back for him? Why didn't they save him? Why did they get to live, but he didn't? Fasha was struck with shock and fell back into her base form. Tora yelled that they wanted to save him, but there was nothing they could do. They were ambushed by Dodoria. He took steps towards Bardock. Fasha tried to stop him, saying that he was just trying to get in their head, but he wouldn't listen. Tora continued to walk, tears on his face. He tried to explain that they barely survived and they spent many years stranded on an alien world, hoping beyond all hope that he was still alive. Every word he spoke cut them like a knife. Bardock had one final question. Why did they not revive him? He took a battle stance. He then took the chance to punch Tora across the face, sending him flying into a mountain. Bardock laughed loudly as his aura exploded and he became a Super Saiyan. His power pushed thanks to Babidi's magic. Tora rubbed his face and looked at him in shock. Bardock didn't even look back as he shot a blast at Tora. His eyes widened while he let out a light sound, but he couldn't move. His best friend, his leader, a man he admired above all, had just turned against him. A large figure appeared before him, standing in front of the blast and taking it with full force. It was Borgos. He protected him. Bardock laughed, saying that he was aiming for the bigger threat, but the vermin had stepped in the way. Borgos fell back, dropping out of Super Saiyan. He coughed out blood. When Tora caught him, he tried to get him to calm down, asking him to stay with them, but it was too late. The gentle giant could only tell his friend to protect their family. Borgos slowly passed away. This Bardock was incredibly powerful. Dabura laughed from behind Bardock, appearing from the shadows. He declared that the real fight begins now, and that Majin Buu would soon return. Tora damped him and Bardock, while Shugesh and Fasha got in their battle stance. Bardock and Dabura opened their auras, causing such a shock that the ship itself began to fall apart. Babidi was forced to take the egg outside while the ship crumbled, teleporting everyone to the desert. Not too far away, Vegeta and Goku threw one more punch during their awesome match. The arena was nearly destroyed. People ran from the stance and the commentator shook with every attack, but they felt the ki of Bardock rise up. This wasn't good. They didn't know who it was, but they knew it meant trouble. Then they felt Borgos' ki drop. All the Z fighters looked at each other. Goku said Vegeta's name and they nodded at each other. Before they left, Goku told Bulma, Krillin and the others to collect the Dragon Balls, just in case. The team blasted off towards Babidi's ship. The Saiyan squadron was not alone and would never be alone again. Fasha jumped in front of Tora and Borgos, saying that she would be the one to face Bardock. She turned to Tora, Shugesh, and Shin, telling them to keep Dabura at bay in the meantime. Shin tried to tell them that the more they fought, the more energy they gave to Buu, but Fasha wouldn't listen. She was already swapping blows with Bardock. Bardock grinned, asking Fasha if she had gotten any stronger since the last time they met. Fasha merely stared in utter fury. She gave Bardock a final offer to stand down and join them, or else. Bardock spat on the floor, saying that friends were worthless, and their power was the only thing he could ever count on. Fasha charged her ki, her rage creating shockwaves across the wasteland, which scared Dabura, but amused Bardock. Fasha coldly told him, if you don't come back to us, I'll break every bone in your body and force you to come back. Bardock was very sadistic in his attacks, mocking Fasha as they fought. He asked why Fasha bothered protecting a weakling like Kakarot, why she was not the one to avenge him and kill Frieza. He even told her that it was her carelessness that caused him to leave. Fasha gritted her teeth and told him to shut up. His words were really breaking down his friend. Vegeta, Goku, and Gohan zoomed onto the scene, where Goku was confused. That man looked very similar to himself. Fasha told Goku to get away, to which the Majin Saiyan smirked and punched Fasha in the gut. She fell onto the floor, while Bardock tilted his head at Goku. So, this was his son. My, he had grown up. But was it worth saving him? He shouldn't have been so selfless. He should have just saved himself, not even Gine. Goku didn't know what to say. Even when Bardock rushed to attack, Goku kept on the defensive. He was too shooken up by what he was saying. This was the man that Tora, Fasha, and Shugesh spoke so highly of all these years. Yet here he stands now, as a sadistic maniac. Meanwhile, Tora and Dabura's match raged on. He told Shugesh to stay out of it, while he pummeled Dabura. But it looked like he had underestimated the Demon King, as he materialized the sword and slashed through Tora's back. The pain was so intense, he was brought down to his knees. Gohan rushed in, slamming Dabura across the face. He was sent flying back, to which Vegeta appeared to elbow him back down. Tora rubbed his eyes to see a smiling Gohan giving him a hand. He took it, and he broke the sad news to him that Piccolo had been turned to stone. Gohan nodded, saying that they will avenge him and get him back. Shin told everyone to look at the egg near Babidi. It was steaming. Boo's birth was almost complete. Vegeta, Shugesh, and Shin rushed over, with Fasha and Tora switching places in the fight. Gohan and Fasha faced off against Dabura, as Vegeta and Shin tried to kill Babidi. However, Babidi was crafty, panicking as he kept using magic to create illusions and shields to protect himself. Vegeta was getting rather annoyed with this wrinkled spud. Meanwhile, Goku and Tora fought Majin Bardock. Goku didn't want to hurt him. He didn't care that he was his father. He cared that he was Tora's best friend. But Tora yelled at him that nothing Bardock was saying was true, that Bardock loved Kakarot and gave his life to save him. This basically gave Goku a clear path to do one thing: kick his ass. Goku transformed into a Super Saiyan 2, uppercutting Bardock in the chin and sending him up to the sky. Bardock stopped himself, wiping some blood and laughing. This was what he was waiting for. The two Saiyans traded blows for a while Vegeta and Fasha finished off Dabura. But it was all for naught, as Dabura opened his eyes slowly, extremely hurt, to watch Majin Buu's egg crack open. Nothing Shugesh and Gohan did stop the resurrection. Kaioshin knew that it was all over. All the fighting stopped as they watched the rebirth of Buu, the pink blob stumbling out of the cloud of smoke. Babidi commanded him to attack, with all the heroes getting in their battle formation. But Buu simply played around, battling the heroes, but never trying too hard. Majin Bardock thought that this was ridiculous. He watched everyone battle Buu, but one person approached him: Tora. He asked why he was doing this, which Bardock replied by saying that this was what he was born to do, to battle viciously and conquer his enemies. Nothing more, as a true Saiyan should. But Tora knew that this wasn't true. All these years they learned from Goku, Gohan, and even Vegeta and the Namekians that Saiyans were much more than what they were born to be. His son was a prime example of that. Bardock stayed quiet. Tora extended his hand out to Bardock, holding something. It was a bandana, red with blood. Tora said that Kakarot wore it during his battle against Frieza, and to him, it contained the spirits of not only the entire Saiyan squad, but Bardock as well. The Majin warrior took it, looking at it pensively. Tora left to battle Buu, without saying another word. But the battle against Buu was not going well. A single angry explosion sent everyone flying away. Shugesh damned the world. He trained all these years just to see his friends be decimated by Buu, just like when Dabura annihilated his crew on planet Zune. No, not again. He refused to let this happen. He devised a plan. He would get Gohan's energy back. While Buu fought against Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta, Fasha noticed Dabura standing back up. He wasn't going to support Buu on her watch. She launched herself forward to confront Dabura, but she noticed something. It was Shugesh sneaking around. He teleported over right behind Buu, grabbing a hold of his head tentacle. Buu was confused, even shooting a chocolate beam that barely missed Shugesh's face. Shugesh finally pushed himself back with his feet, jumping off of Buu. He felt a lot of energy being poured out. He had just used Spirit Fission to take away all of the power that Buu has stolen from Gohan. However, that wasn't the only thing that Shugesh took from Buu. A dense cloud of steam came from him, and a large amount of energy made everyone scurry back. The steam dissipated, and two Majin Buu stood next to each other, one gray one and one pink. Shin asked Shugesh what he had just done. He doomed the universe. Shugesh looked at his hands, afraid and confused. Babidi celebrated until he watched the gray Buu turn the other one into candy and eat him, once again transforming. This was insane, Fasha thought. Super Buu was born. and he was not amused by the lack of power around him. Dabura asked Babidi if this was part of the plan, to which Babidi commanded Boo to finally kill Kaioshin and the rest. Super Boo didn't move an inch. He simply admired his hands. Dabura walked up to him, punching him in the face, yelling at him to listen to Lord Babidi. Super Boo did not flinch. Instead, he shifted his eyes to look at Dabura, flicked his finger towards him, and a mass of his own body engulfed the Demon King, absorbing him. Another piece of himself lunged towards Babidi, who yelled in fear. A bright light consumed the arena while Boo's power shot up. Super Boo was the strongest being around, and now he was even smarter because of Babidi. He smiled at Shin and turned to look at everyone. Super Boo said he wanted a real challenge. His power was enough to cause the fighters around to shudder in fear. Nonetheless, Shugesh, Fasha, Tora, Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan all rushed towards Boo. Shugesh tried to spirit fission out Dabura and Babidi, but Boo knew Shugesh's trick now and would never let that happen again. Boo grabbed Shugesh's arm and broke it in half, throwing him across the field into Shin. Kaioshin healed him while he tried to think of what to do, but sadly, it looked like they may have to retreat at the rate they were going. Boo was not only more powerful thanks to Dabura, but he now had Babidi's magic and intelligence. Shin asked Shugesh if he could teleport again, because he would need his help, saving the fighters. At the tournament, people started to realize something strange going on. All the fighters had left, and it looked like nothing else was going to happen. Mr. Satan was declared the winner, but he was worried, looking around for Videl. Unbeknownst to him, 18 Krillin, Gota and Trunks, even Videl, they had all joined Bulma and Chi-Chi in finding the Dragon Balls. Shugesh declares himself as the one to defeat Boo. Pointing towards himself, Boo slaps Tora away and laughs, saying that the only one he cares about is Goku, the one giving him at least a little bit of a challenge. A blob of pink shoots towards Goku, but a giant foot crashes down on it. It was Giant Shugesh. Goku recognized this. It was a Yardrat technique, but that wasn't all. Shugesh multiplicated himself in order to battle Boo. Everyone watched in awe as hundreds of Shugesh stormed the monster. Boo loved it, but his target was still Goku. From his body shot out spikes of his own mass, striking the various Shugesh and making them disappear. But one of the spikes zoomed all around so fast that no one could follow it, confusing it with other spikes. But it rapidly approached Goku from behind. Gohan noticed, yelling out his father's name, but it never struck him. Goku realized a shadow being cast on him. He slowly turned around to see Bardock, some blood dripping from his mouth. Goku's eyes widened as he realized Bardock was wearing the bandana that Goku himself had worn many years ago. Bardock smiled at his son, saying that he was sorry for the stuff he said, but he saved Kakarot for a reason, and now he had to do it again. Goku reached out to Bardock, but the spike enveloped itself around his father, dragging him into Boo. One more absorption. Goku yelled at Boo. The only thing he was able to grab was Bardock's headband. He felt someone grab his arm. It was Shugesh. The heroes were teleported from Earth into the Kaioshin realm. Goku put 2 fingers on his forehead, about to teleport back, but Shin asked him to stop. They were the only hope for Earth. Shugesh's clones are still fighting down there, which should buy them some time. Goku looked helplessly at the bandana in his hands, telling Shugesh to tell them as soon as the last clone disappeared. Shin continued to argue, but Gohan said that he would stay and undergo any training that needed to be done, and would need his father's help. Thus, training for Gohan began with the Z sword. Shugesh, Fasha, and Vegeta teleported down to Earth to continue the fight. But Boo was far stronger than they anticipated. Shugesh couldn't get anywhere close to take out Bardock and Dabura, because Boo could simply spit, turn him into candy or stone. They hoped things were going better for Goku. Bulma was acting independently, wishing for everyone that was killed by the Majins to return to life. Piccolo was broken from the stone, and Borgos took a breath once more. They floated towards one another and watched the battle. Borgos could even feel Bardock's presence. Shugesh noticed them and teleported over to them, but they wanted to join in the battle and help their friends. From behind, Shugesh heard a scream. Fasha and Vegeta were absorbed. Piccolo and Borgos jumped in to fight. The Namekian would never forgive Boo, but the monster knew all of Piccolo's moves already. He laughed, saying the poor girl was quite fond of him. It must have been Babidi's influence from within, but this Boo seemed to take pleasure in collecting and absorbing these fighters, because he aimed to absorb Shugesh and Borgos next. As Boo uses his magic to trap Piccolo in an illusion, he sends a piece of himself to absorb Borgos. However, the piece is blown back by a surprise Kiko-ho. From the distance, Borgos sees an old ally, Ten Shinhan. Borgos thanks Tien for the assistance. As the Triclops asks for a quick update, Piccolo breaks free from the Majin's illusion. Borgos points at Boo, merely saying that he needs to be stopped. Sweat falls from Tien's face, saying that he wasn't sure if he was up to the task. Borgos simply responds that If he were to die here, he'd gladly do so with an ally like him, the Earthling with the heart of a Saiyan. Tien smiles as he, Borgos, and Piccolo stand together against the monstrous Super Buu. Buu is far too powerful and none of them stand a chance, but they have to keep fighting, or Buu will have a chance to destroy Earth. They are just buying time. Kibito was also revived with the Dragon Balls, and shook in fear at Buu's energy. He approached the wounded Piccolo, who explained that they needed to save Dende. Without him, the Earth's Dragon Balls that just brought back everyone would cease to exist. Kibito agreed, teleporting over to Dende, where he took Dende, Popo, and Piccolo to the Kaioshin realm. Gohan was very glad to see Piccolo alive, though he couldn't move, as his power was being unlocked by the old Kai. Earlier, Gohan had lifted the mighty Z-Sword, but accidentally broke it, releasing the Elder Kai from it. Kibito hated seeing all these mortals in the world of the Kais. Meanwhile, on Earth, everything seemed hopeless. They knew it was only a matter of time until they were absorbed. The mixture of Fasha, Vegeta, and Bardock within definitely made Buu want them even more. He needed the whole collection of the Bardock squad. His attacks were more violent, explosive, and intense. Sure enough, Shugesh made the mistake to get too close in order to spirit fission out the people within Buu, which is exactly what he was expecting. The Majin turned his head all the way around and smiled, turning him into candy. Borgos tried to stop him, but it only resulted in a piece of Buu's body dragging him into himself as well. Tien looked on in despair. That was it. All of Bardock's squad was absorbed. No. Buu's eyes narrowed. He was missing one person. He heard a sound ring off. The instant transmission. Behind him, Goku, Gohan, Piccolo, and Tora appeared. How lucky. Tora was the one person he was looking for, but it was Gohan who stepped to the plate. The battle commenced, very similar to how the original story went. However, Buu is stronger thanks to all the people he absorbed. Once again, Gohan was too cocky and was using too much energy, or was he? Unbeknownst to him, Buu was actually using Shugesh's spirit fission, taking more and more of Gohan's ki. Goku noticed this and developed a plan. Buu was way too focused on Gohan and he was leaving his back exposed. Thankfully, he didn't know that Goku could also use spirit fission. Goku saw this opening and immediately sprang into action. He said sorry to Gohan underneath his breath for interrupting the battle, but he teleported right behind Buu and reached out. From Buu, a hand came out, grabbing Goku's. Buu had no idea that this Saiyan could also use spirit fission. Goku pulled back, dragging the person. It was Bardock. He literally pulled his father out from within Buu. His power decreased some. As soon as Buu felt this happen, he whipped his head tentacle and slammed it across Goku's face, sending him and Bardock into Tora. They rubbed their heads, and Bardock opened his eyes slowly. He was on Tora, but they smiled at each other, though the M on his head remained. Bardock and Tora fist-bumped like old times. It was time to face one final adversary together. Goku wasted no time in rushing back to help Gohan. He wished he could have gotten Shugesh as well. The longer they fought Majin Buu, the more their power was taken away. Tora and Bardock got in their battle stances, ready to fight, but they could tell that Goku and Gohan were slowing down. They needed to get them out of there quickly, before all of their power got absorbed. Bardock mentioned to Tora that everyone within Buu was alive, and that they needed to get them out. Tora agreed, but Buu now knew perfectly well who exactly could use spirit fission. They couldn't use it again. Bardock nodded, but he knew of another way. Meanwhile, in the Kaioshin realm, Shin talked to the old Kai. Kibito had gotten everyone in the battle area out of there. Tien and Piccolo were safe. They huddled around the crystal ball, afraid that they might lose. The old Kai was furious that Gohan would misuse the power he gave him, but he knew that there was another way. The Potara. After a brief explanation, Shin and Kibito demonstrated the power of the earrings by fusing into Kibito-Shin. They wanted to face Buu as well, but knew all they could do was hand the Potara over to Goku and Gohan. They teleported in, watching the Saiyans fight. Kibito-Shin yells out, "Catch!" Everyone turns around, including Buu. Goku and Buu both reach out. No way he was going to allow them any more help. Buu and Goku end up punching each other in the face, while one Potara flies down. Gohan is confused, but helps his father. Bardock catches the second Potara, looking at it in confusion. Tora flies down to look for the other Potara, while Shin telepathically tells them what they are and how to use them. He specifically tells Tora and Bardock to give them to Goku and Gohan, but there is no opening for them to do so. Buu was easily defeating Goku and Gohan, and Bardock couldn't stand to watch it. He shook in anger. Tora finally found the Potara and looked at Shin. He knew that Goku and Gohan would be the better choice for the fusion, but Bardock yelled out,
He's killing them.
Shin looks down and nodded. Bardock and Tora looked at each other, placing the Potara on their ears. Goku watched as a giant mass of Boo's body shut itself towards him. Was this really it? Out of nowhere, a flash of green and blue light blinded Boo, cutting the mass of him off. Boo was surprised, and when his eyes cleared, everyone looked in shock. He was not Bardock, nor was he Tora. He was Tordok, and he was going to be the one to save his friends. Gohan and Goku celebrated while they watched the fusion power up and pummel Boo, but his plan was not to defeat him in this way. No, he had to do something first. The fusion angered Boo, but he was glad to see them together. This way, he would be able to absorb the last two pieces of the Bardock squad. He would finally become the most powerful warrior in the universe. Tordok was counting on it, protecting himself with a key sphere. As he was absorbed, telepathically, he made sure to tell Goku and Shin his plan, and to not worry. Goku was able to still sense their ki, alive and well within Boo. He smiled. On the outside, Boo cheered in victory, though it was strange, since his outfit did not change this time around. It didn't matter. He was going to win. Goku acted as if he was terrified, and both him and Gohan continued to challenge Boo. Kibito Shin had healed them while the fusion fought, so they would be able to keep Boo busy. In the meantime, inside, the fusion remained. Unbeknownst to them, they only had around an hour to get everyone out. There was no time to waste. The fusion ventured through the inside of Majin Buu until locating a room that contained some sort of egg-like incubator for each of the absorbed people: Fasha, Shugesh, Borgos, Dabra, Babidi, and even the other Buu. Bardock's side of the fusion remembered this room, looking over to a broken incubator. That's where he was before. He needed to do this quickly, but he wasn't going to go unchallenged, as Super Buu spawned various miniature versions of himself to intercept the intruder. Super Buu was very threatened, and from the outside, Goku and Gohan saw him change over and over. First, they took Fasha, followed by Shugesh and Borgos. Buu wouldn't be able to take their energy anymore. The monster yelled out in anger, steam filling out the inside of his body. Next was Babidi and Dabura. Those monsters didn't deserve to be saved, but they needed to be in order to weaken Buu. Buu created hundreds of versions of himself to attack the fusion, but he smirked. This was a combination attack: the nail gun and the spirit cannon. Call it the Spirit Gun. Tordok pointed his finger out as if holding a gun and fired a huge blast that destroyed all the Super Boos. It created a huge cloud of steam that would push all the heroes out. It was terrifying. Tora had been training in the ways of the Yard Rat for a very long time, but one technique that he always struggled with was multiplication. But this moment, with the help of his friend Bardock, the fusion split itself into several parts. The various Tordok grabbed the people they freed, including Dabra, Fat Buu, and Babidi. They sped outside of Buu as steam followed them. From outside, Goku and Gohan watched as Buu began to contort even more. The fusion arrived, all the clones disappearing and dropping the various villains and heroes. Buu continued to morph while the team regrouped. The people from inside Buu slowly woke up, and they were happily reunited with the rest of the Bardock squad. But Babidi and Dabra were gone. They made sure to keep an eye on Fat Buu, however, who was mostly confused, didn't have any evil within him. They felt it. Babidi slowly approached the small Buu, who was born from the steam. He was afraid to go to him, but he recognized this Buu from Bibidi's memories as the original one. Perhaps he could control him better in this state. Babidi did not hesitate, conjuring the spell his father did to control the original Majin Buu. It was difficult to keep him under control, but Buu listened to him when he asked him to kill all their adversaries. Kid Buu laughed, creating a giant ball of ki over his head. Dabura was afraid that they would die along with the planet, but Babidi created a shield around them. He knew Buu would make it. The heroes watched in disbelief. Earth would be destroyed. They had no time, but the fusion turned to Kibito Shin, telling him to teleport everyone to the Kaioshin realm. The Kai was confused, but didn't have time to ask once the fusion teleported over to Kid Buu and moved him to the Kaioshin realm as well. Just as the ki ball was launched, the fusion knew that the world of the Kais was a lot more dense than Earth. It could take the abuse. Sure enough, the ki ball skid across the land, while the old Kai, Tien, Popo, Dende, and Piccolo jumped back from the appearance of Fat Buu. The old Kai yelled at the fusion for bringing him there, but he was also confused. The fusion hadn't brought him there. Goku chimed in, saying he did. He wasn't going to just leave him there on Earth. In a flash, everyone teleported to the Kaioshin realm, including Dabura and Babidi. The two teams landed on opposite sides, staring down at each other. This was it. It was going to be the final battle. All of the Z fighters stood together, staring down at Babidi and his warriors. There was a moment of silence that seemed to last an eternity. Then Babidi shrieked, ordering his minions to attack. Without another word, the heroes and villains clashed. Fasha, Borgos, and Shugesh aimed to take down Dabura. The fusion, Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan rushed to Kid Buu. It was an all-out assault. In the meantime, Piccolo and Tien protected the old Kai and the others. Bardock fired a bunch of blue blast all over the place. This was another special technique, the Hell Soul, utilizing Piccolo's Hellzone grenade and the Spirit Cannon. The fusion closed his arms, the balls of ki firing like bullets into Majin Buu. Buu ended up with a bunch of holes all over his body, but not only did he regenerate, he also launched himself into the fusion, slamming his head against his. It could have knocked him out, but the fusion ended right then and there. Bardock and Tora pushed themselves to the side to avoid Buu. The earrings were damaged. They couldn't fuse anymore, but it wasn't over. They weren't giving up. Meanwhile, Shugesh and Borgos did a combination attack against Dabura, with Shugesh slowly taking power from the Demon King. Borgos grabbed Dabura, slamming him into the ground, followed by Shugesh hitting his knee against Dabura's chest. That was it. They had won. Shugesh pointed his hand out at Dabura, a ball of ki ready to kill him. But it didn't fire, because Shugesh promised himself that he would never give in to his anger again. He can't kill him, but he doesn't have to save him either. Shugesh and Borgos flew off to face Buu, while Dabura looked confused. But he realized something. He was surrounded by giant balls of ki. He turned his head to look at a smiling Fasha, who closed her arms and launched the balls of ki against Dabura, killing him. She spat on the ground. That was payback for turning Piccolo into stone. As the battle intensified, Piccolo watched proudly. Within him, the remnants of Nail's soul stirred. He trained the Saiyans for many years, and they had all grown so much. Shugesh especially surprised him. He was once a bloodthirsty killer who attacked his village, with the intent of conquering Namek, but now he is one of the universe's most fearless defenders. He looked at Tora, Fasha, Borgos, and Gohan. Time and time again, they broke their limits and rose above the chaos to become beacons of hope for so many people. They were all his students, and he loved them greatly. He then moved his head to look at the two Saiyans leading the charge up front, Goku and Vegeta. They were both men he had sought to kill so many years ago. Yet, here they are now, fighting side by side to protect everything and everyone. Their universe was in good hands. Piccolo smiled brightly. He proclaimed triumphantly, "You guys are #1. The battle continued, with everyone focusing on Kid Buu. That was until he copied Goku and fired a giant pink Kamehameha that sent all of the fighters into different directions. They were all spread out. Shugesh and Tora landed in front of Dende and the others, with Shugesh clashing into Majin Buu. He was just standing there, silently. Shugesh heard him whisper something. He was saying that this was Buu's fault? He was talking in third person. He was talking about himself. This struck Shugesh. Kid Buu fired a barrage of ki bullets at Fat Buu after realizing that he was standing there, almost as if mocking him. But Shugesh stepped in the way, deflecting them. Tora looked at Shugesh, surprised, but he felt it too. The lack of evil in Fat Buu. Shugesh turned to Buu and said, "This is your fault, our fault, everyone's fault, but I need to know if you're up to this. Because that monster will kill us all. We're fighting a small wizard and can be turned into candy at any point. None of this makes sense, but I'm going out there because this is what I have been fighting for all these years. To stop you, to stop them. But I can't fight and protect you at the same time. It doesn't matter what you did or who you are. If you're fighting out there and you're fighting for Earth, the universe, if you stand back here and choose not to fight, you're fine. We will find you a home. But if you come fight with us, you're part of our team. You're part of Bardock's squad." Tora's and Buu's eyes widened. Shugesh was giving Buu, the being he had been training to defeat for so many years, a second chance. Just like the Grand Elder had given Shugesh a chance to prove himself as a good person so long ago. No matter what he did in the past, Shugesh extended out his hand, and Buu took it. It was time to fight together. Piccolo, who was by Dende, took off his cape. Tien threw aside his cloak. Even Kibito Shin cracked his knuckles. Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Fasha, and Borgos reunited with them. There was one final person still fighting out there, Bardock. Buu was the first to rush in, and the rest followed suit. Ki blasts and punches flew everywhere. Kid Buu duplicated himself, changed, grew, but everything he did was countered. He wasn't going to lose, but he wasn't having fun anymore. Babidi cheered for him from afar. Buu was exploding his ki, pushing all of them back. This was it. He was going to destroy them all. He threw a giant ball of ki down. All of the Z fighters were tired, nearly out of ki. But with the last bit of his strength, Bardock stood back up. He remembered the last time he saw a ki ball of this size. His planet was destroyed. He would never let something like that happen again. Bardock launched the Spirit Cannon, just like he had done many years ago. It crashed against the key ball, but it was quickly being consumed. Shugesh had an idea. It was crazy, but it may work. He told everyone to point their hands at him. They all did, even the old Kai and Majin Buu. They watched as their spirit energy was taken from them. Shugesh was spirit fissioning out their ki, collecting them into one giant ki sphere. He launched it at Bardock, whose eyes flared up when he obtained it, his aura erupting once more. The key balls were much more equal this time, but he wasn't winning just yet. Shugesh told the squad to go support him. Bardock looked to the side to see Fasha, Borgos, and Tora standing by him. Hands raised to support the key ball. It pushed forward a bit more. Shugesh took whatever energy he could from the fighters, with a good chunk from Buu. Then he went up there to support the ball as well. The Bardock squad had been reunited. Slowly, they took steps forward, pushing Buu back. But it was so difficult. Bardock closed his eyes. He felt like he was going to give up. But suddenly, the spirit cannon got a lot lighter. He opened his eyes, looked to the side, and saw something incredible. His son, the proud Super Saiyan, one hand raised to support his spirit cannon, wearing the bandana that Tora gave him to wear. Bardock smiled. He felt all the other fighters jump in to help. Gohan, Piccolo, Tien, and Fat Buu all stood side by side. Bardock smiled, with Goku yelling out, "It's over!" The spirit cannon grew to completely overtake Buu's ki ball. In an instant, he disintegrated. The blast continued forward and hit Babidi as well, his dreams to take over the universe vanishing before his eyes. It was finally over. Goku looked on proudly as the spirit cannon dissipated. He turned to his father to say that they did it, but Bardock had a sad smile on his face. Fasha hugged him tightly, with Borgos and Shugesh jumping in too. Tora couldn't look at him in the eyes without crying. "I tried so hard to save the universe, but now I did, thanks to you, my squad, my dearest friends. Thank you for believing in me." He forced Tora into a hug as well. They all let him go as he took steps forward to Goku and Gohan. He said that he was sorry for what they went through because of him, but that he was proud of the men they had become. He hoped that they meet again in another life. Gohan asked why he couldn't stay there anymore. Bardock laughed lightly, saying that he was only there because of Babidi's magic. The M on his forehead faded. Now that Babidi was dead, he had to return to the other world. Bardock hugged them both. He stepped away as he looked at his squadmates one last time. Finally, his anger and rage gone, Bardock took his final breath before disappearing. Goku asked the old Kai to tell Bulma that she can use the final wish to return Earth to how it used to be before the Majin attack. They have caused a lot of destruction through the planet, and so the Z fighters once again saved the universe. This time with a little help from some new friends. A few months passed and peace returned to Earth, but the Bardock squad had decided that though Earth was their home, they couldn't stay there anymore. They saw what Babidi could do, and they couldn't ever let another threat like that pop up. Thus, everyone met at Capsule Corp to say their goodbyes. Majin Buu had been living with Tora and Shugesh at the lookout, becoming a great ally. Even if he did act like a child, he would accompany them. The team stood in front of the most advanced Capsule Corp ship ever created, with a red bandana spray painted on the side. They would travel the universe and defend anyone who needed their help, like guardians, or something like that. The same way Shugesh had done many years ago. It was a tearful goodbye, but there was someone missing, Piccolo. It was very sad, especially for Fasha. She hoped to say goodbye, but as they stepped through the door, they heard a voice from within. Piccolo stepped out from the shadows, welcoming them. Fasha was shocked, but none of the other Saiyans seemed to be surprised. He looked at her in the eyes as he told her, "You can't get rid of me that easily, Fasha." The Saiyan blushed immensely as Shugesh snickered. He had known Fasha for decades, yet never seen her make a face like that. His chuckles quickly turned into a cry when Fasha immediately kneed him in the gut as Piccolo and the rest laughed. Piccolo had already told Gohan and Goku that he planned on joining the Bardock squad on their space mission, but if they ever needed anything, to just tell him. He can get Shugesh to teleport him home. The new Bardock squad, composed of Fasha, Shugesh, Borgos, Tora, Buu, and Piccolo, smiled and waved at everyone from the window. At this moment, Tora looked at the cheerful Goku, waving goodbye. But Tora seemed to see something. For a split second, he swore he saw Bardock standing there, where Goku was, smiling and waving his arms. Tora started to cry as the memories of his past began to flood his mind. He owed everything to Bardock and his family. He and his friends wouldn't be the same people today if it wasn't for them. Shugesh tells everyone to hold on tight as Tora wipes his tears. They'll continue to honor his name every day by living of the example set by him and his son Kakarot. The team blasted off into space in search of new heights, new friends, and new adventures. Tora looks out the window as he reminisces upon the story of Bardock's squad. From Vegeta to Namek and Earth, they have been through so much. His thoughts are interrupted by something, the noise of the communicator. Him, the squad, Boo and Piccolo have been traveling the galaxy helping people out. They have had run-ins with the Galactic Patrol being considered vigilantes. Either way, they weren't planning on returning to Earth anytime soon. That's why he was surprised to hear Bulma's voice come from the communicator. She asked for their help. Frieza had returned. Tora and everyone else's eyes widened. Frieza? Could that be true? He was for sure defeated long ago, and even if he was back, Goku and the others should be strong enough. The Bardock squad gathered around to discuss the situation. While Fasha thinks it's nothing, Shugesh thinks it's urgent. The two argue, but Piccolo comes in between them. Without opening his eyes, he explains that they are telling the truth. He can tell by Bulma's voice. Whatever is going on, they really need their help. As soon as Piccolo explains this, the rest of the squad agrees, inputting the coordinates towards Earth and rushing back home. It took some time for them to return to Earth, and in that time not only had Frieza and his army arrived, but they began their attack on Earth. As Shisame battled Gohan, a loud sound rang off behind them. The two stopped their battle, with Frieza cocking an eyebrow. The wind blows off as the ship lands. Outstepping Tora, Shugesh, Fasha, Borgos, Boo, and Piccolo. Frieza then frowned when he saw the giant pink blob stumbling out of the spacecraft holding several chocolate bars. Wasn't that Majin Buu? Frieza laughs. Weren't they the guys he killed a long time ago? Piccolo nodded at Gohan, who was excited to see Mr. Piccolo and the rest. The squad didn't waste time as they rushed to the rest of the army. They asked what the hell was going on, with Tora approaching Gohan to help him against Shisame. He explains that there was a lot that happened since the last time they saw each other, including Beerus, the god of destruction, appearing, and the birth of the Super Saiyan god. Tora smirked, saying that he knew that if anyone was going to birth the Super Saiyan god, then it would be Goku, of course. Gohan said that now that they were all together, they could use that sort of power. Shisame tried to interrupt the conversation with a blast, but Tora appeared behind him with the instant transmission, blasting him into Gohan, who hammer-fisted him back down to Earth. Gohan explains that his father and Vegeta are still out of the picture, but that he has a plan. At first, he thought that he would have to power up to the max to get Goku here, but if he felt the power of a new Super Saiyan God, the key that only him and Vegeta could really feel, then perhaps they would not only have a better chance of getting their attention, but also have a new powerful ally to defend them. As the other Saiyans finish off their battles, they gathered around in front of Frieza, who asked where Goku was. Tora questioned who the new Super Saiyan God should be, but they all looked at him, even Gohan. He gulped. He wasn't sure he was ready for that responsibility, but Goten stood by him, holding his hand. Trunks cheered him on from the sidelines. Thus, Tora, Gohan, Shugesh, Borgos, Fasha, and Goten held hands, all of their power going directly into Tora. But Frieza wasn't easily fooled. He wasn't going to allow this Super Saiyan to transform right in front of him. He fired death beams at each one of the Saiyans, piercing them. Piccolo winced, reminding him of Frieza's third form. He was torturing them. He wasn't trying to kill them. Even so, they held on to their friend for dear life. No matter how painful, all of their power was pumped into Tora as the aura exploded into a fiery light. He was now a Super Saiyan God. All of his friends laid on the ground, hurt from the piercing death beams. He promised himself that he would protect his friends, and that Frieza would never hurt them again. Frieza smirked, realizing that this Super Saiyan God was the power he feared long ago. Fine, it was time to bring out the big guns. After transforming into his final form, Frieza and Tora began their battle, with Frieza quickly realizing that Tora was a lot more powerful than he thought. Not only because of the Super Saiyan God, but also because of the years of training with the Bardock squad and their outer space adventures. Jacko commented on the fact that they were all vigilantes, and that he'd had to apprehend them after the battle. But seeing Tora's power, he backed off. Tora did his best against Frieza, powering up higher and higher until Whis was able to read his God Key. It wasn't long before Goku and Vegeta teleported to Earth with their brand new Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. The battle went on as normal. They told Tora to stand down, that it was time for them to battle. Tora insisted that he'd be the one to defeat Frieza, but once he transformed into his golden state, he knew he didn't have a chance. With the two gods battling Frieza, Tora admitted that this power was incredible while watching Goku and Vegeta fight. Fasha explained that she was jealous, and that she wanted that power. Tora looked upon Goku proudly, and then Vegeta, who seemed to be winning. But to everyone's surprise, Goku interrupted the battle. He pushed Vegeta aside and talked to him in private. Frieza was extremely confused and yelled at them, but Goku apologized, with Vegeta looking very upset. Goku then turned to Tora, Fasha, Borgos, and Shugesh, calling them over. The team approached slowly. Goku put his hand on Fasha's shoulder, saying that this was their battle. It was about time the old generation of Saiyans settled their own score. After all, he had already saved them once before. Tora wasn't sure, and Frieza felt insulted, but Fasha was excited. She had been waiting for this moment her entire life. She may not have Super Saiyan God, but she would support Tora any way she could. With the whole team behind him, he knew he was ready. Shugesh burst his aura, his full power in effect. Borgos turned into a Super Saiyan 2, Fasha into her brand new Super Saiyan 3, and Tora into Super Saiyan God. Frieza laughed. Even after the arduous battle against Vegeta, he was still strong enough, but Tora declared that even if he had more power, Frieza didn't have the spirit, the pride of the Saiyan race, and above all, he didn't have the squad. The whole squadron rushed in, with Frieza blocking the attack. Tora alone was enough to push down Frieza at least a little bit, who was severely hurt by Vegeta and Goku. It came to the point where Tora stood over Frieza, who was about to destroy Earth. Tora was none the wiser, but the gentle, silent giant, Borgos, noticed something. His eyes widened. In an instant, the Saiyan appeared behind Frieza and held his arms back, yelling, "Do it," to Tora. Tora nodded, saying, "For Bardock." He did not hesitate, placing his hand on Frieza's chest and firing the blast, creating a great explosion. Both Tora and Borgos were sent flying into opposite directions, while Frieza was nowhere to be found. He was defeated, and the older Saiyans had finally avenged their friends. The team celebrated, after making sure that Borgos was okay. Whis and Beerus took notice of the prowess of the older Saiyans, noting that they may be good candidates for the training alongside Goku and Vegeta. They extended this offer to them, which they initially refused. They wanted to travel the galaxy still. Though Whis was surprised, Beerus actually thought that this was very noble. He told them that the offer was there anytime they wanted it. And thus, the day was saved once again, but the Z fighters wouldn't see the last of the older Saiyans. They said goodbye, with the spaceship blasting off once more into space. But Beerus' offer remained on their minds, so much so that not long after, Fasha, Tora, Shugesh, Piccolo, and Borgos took them up on the offer and began their arduous training. Borgos wasn't too interested in training and would rather spend time exploring the planet or taking care of the Oracle Fish. Shugesh continued to train in his more spiritual manner, something that interested Whis. He felt as if he would be the one to near the Ultra Instinct state, while Beerus thought that Fasha could reach Ultra Ego because of how aggressive she was. They weren't nearly as far along as Goku and Vegeta, but were still extremely impressive. And of course, they trained Piccolo as well. And once Champa challenged Beerus to the tournament for the Super Dragon Balls, it was Fasha who agreed to join in the tournament. The other Saiyans were generally not interested in that sort of thing. Thus, the team was composed of Goku, Vegeta, Monica, Fasha, and Piccolo. Only after they realized that Buu would not pass the test. It was a total surprise for the squad to meet another Saiyan in the form of Cabba and learn about the history of their universe. So that's what they could have become. They would have lost their tails, become more peaceful? They thought it was crazy, but then looked at Goten and Trunks. Those kids were the future of the Saiyan race in Universe 7, and they had those features. It once again reminded them how much things had changed and what they fought for. As in the original, Goku defeats Botamo, but loses against Frost. Piccolo also loses against Frost, where Jacko realizes that he is cheating. This infuriates Fasha, who challenges Frost in Piccolo's stead, wanting to prove that no one will dishonor Neo, her old master. Piccolo smiled proudly as she showed off her new form, Super Saiyan God. Fasha cracked her knuckles, explaining that she may not have been able to defeat Frieza by herself, so this would have to do. She proved herself by weaving around Frost, actually paying homage to Piccolo by using the multi-form technique and ultimately defeating him with a fiery fist. She then had to battle Vegeta, since she cursed like a sailor all the time. She accidentally figured out Vegeta's weakness and won. Her next battle was to be against Cabba, but Vegeta asked her to give him a shot. He wanted to see what this Saiyan was made of. Fasha rolled her eyes and stepped out of the arena. These Saiyan guys. And thus, the tournament went on as normal, and ultimately ended with Hit giving up against Monica, and him becoming the champion, with Goku and Hit promising to battle each other once more. Everyone awaits for the arrival of the Tournament of Power after Goku asks Zeno for one. And while Goku and Vegeta take off to save the universe with Trunks, Piccolo continues to train at Beerus's. However, the squad takes another route. They ask Cabba for a tour of planet Sadala, and end up spending a long time there. They learn what their civilization civilization could have been in a bittersweet trip. Tora packs a lot of things for their trip, while the others pack very light. This proves to be a mistake, as a hooded girl steals his bags. Kaba is surprised and yells at the criminal, but she is gone before he says anything. While the squad tells Tora that he should have packed light, Tora pleads with Kaba to help him get everything back. Kaba knows exactly where to find the girl, leading them into a base where a different girl sits above a number of gangsters. Kaba is clearly a little scared to be there, as several large Saiyans step in the way. Tora is confused, but the girl speaks, telling him that he should not be there and to take those tailed freaks somewhere else. Fasha is about to protest, but Kaba pleads with the girl to just return what his guests had. She finally stands up, turning to a smaller girl and asking her if she took stuff from the visitors. She nods, pointing towards Tora's stuff in the corner. The leader laughs, high-fiving the girl. Kaba isn't sure what to do, but Tora is perplexed, grabbing onto him and asking him what he's doing. He's a Super Saiyan. He saw it with his own eyes during the Universe 6 tournament. Though nervous still, Kaba knew that Tora was right, showing off his transformation and blowing the huge Saiyans away. This finally piques the interest of the leader. Smirking, she didn't know that Kaba had gotten so powerful, cocking an eyebrow to ask if Tora and the others could do that too. Kaba answers that, yeah, and much more. The girl laughs, calling on to Kale to throw stuff back at them. She tells them that they get it back only because she knows they will train her and Kale. Shugesh and Tora try to argue, but Fasha smirks. She was a lot like that girl when she was younger. Screw it, a little sparring wouldn't hurt. The girl introduced herself as Caulifla, and for the next few months, her, Kale, and Kaba would become disciples of the Bardock squad. They were surprised to see just how fast Universe 6 Saiyans were able to pick up on training. Super Saiyan 1, 2, and even 3. They were extremely powerful. They were much more evolved than them, so maybe that's why they grew so quickly. The months of training also served to power up the squad, with Fasha and Tora both achieving Super Saiyan Blue. However, their transformation was much more unstable than that of Goku and Vegeta, and couldn't maintain it for long. Fasha was always annoyed at Caulifla. She had been right. That girl was just like her, and she hated it. Kaba was always curious about Vegeta, and the team promised him to take him back to Earth sometime, as a thank you. They were all surprised to see Kale's power, a strange transformation unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was triggered by Fasha and Caulifla spending so much time training together, and it happened a couple of times. They knew they had to help her control it, and though it took a lot, she managed to do it. Tora did mention something to Fasha, that this girl reminded him of Paragus' kid, the one that had scared off King Vegeta. Fasha realized that too. One fateful day came with Kaba came running towards Caulifla and Kale. He had been informed of the Tournament of Power, and it was going to be a matter of life and death. Everyone went pale when they heard this, the Bardock squad realizing that they had been training what may be their ultimate enemy. If they lose against Universe 6, then they really were doomed. Caulifla refused to join, and Kale apologized to the Bardock squad. They all remained quiet, but Shugesh spoke up, saying, "No, you two have to participate. If you beat us then, it means you really have surpassed us as students, and we will be proud. This is your final test. But just know, our universe has guys stronger than anything you can imagine. We won't go easy on you." Caulifla's blood was pumping. She was going to beat them, and under her breath promised that she will bring all of them back with a wish if they win. The team separated into their own universe, ready to embark on this new challenge. They approached Goku, who was looking for teammates. The team was formed as Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, Tora, Fasha, Shugesh, Borgos, 17, and 18. Borgos really liked 17, as they were both nature lovers, and Borgos reminded 17 of Android 16. With the team set, the tournament began. Tora and the others were excited to show everyone just how much they had grown. In the start of the tournament, Fasha made sure to look for Frost. She really wanted to kick his ass again, and he was eager for a rematch. He had gotten stronger, but not nearly as much as Fasha, who, with a quick burst of Super Saiyan Blue, defeated the alien. Shugesh used his various Yardran techniques to take out the Yardrat fighter, while Borgos accompanied 17 and 18 through the battles. Tora helped Gohan, impressing everyone with a new transformation as well. Borgos was the first one to be taken out from Universe 7, as he actually caught Kale and saved her from being pushed out of the ring during the battle between Jiren and Goku. Though Caulifla did get some training with Goku in as well, her and Kale already had all the tools necessary to battle him. This was a more serious match than the one in the original anime, with Goku complementing Tora and the others' teachings. But Goku's mastered Super Saiyan Blue proved to be too much for the girls, even with their Super Saiyan 3. Either way, this was Tora's fight, not his. Goku left satisfied with the match, and Caulifla, Kale, and Kaba all stood side by side, staring down at Shugesh, Tora, Vegeta, and Fasha. It was time to show what all that training had been for. Though Kale and Caulifla were offered the Potara earrings by their Kaishin, the two Saiyans refused because they had promised themselves that they would prove just how far the training with Bardock's squad had taken them. Now it was time to prove just that. Caulifla thinks back to how she crushed the Potara, looking at her fist and then smirking. Both teams powered up to the max, ready for battle. Kale and Shugesh smirked at each other, the master versus the student. This was time for her to prove that she could truly control her power. Shugesh tried everything under the sun, his cloning, giant form, even spirit fission, but Kale knew her master's moves too well. And even if force spirit fission was hard for her to avoid, her strength and plentiful ki source more than made up for it. In the end, the giant Shugesh was grabbed by the finger by Kale, who ran up his body only to slam him back down and out of the arena. Shugesh smiled proudly, saying, "Not bad, kid," as he disappeared. But Kale wasn't out of the woods just yet, as Tora punched the sky ready for their battle. Kale is the strongest of Universe 6 Saiyans, giving Tora an incredibly hard time. Kappa continued to learn as he tussled with Vegeta. He knew he wasn't a match for Super Saiyan Blue, but he was at least much stronger than in the original story. He was proud of his Super Saiyan 3, even if Vegeta made fun of it as that transformation that Kakarot liked to show off as his own. Fasha and Caulifla's fight is intense, but it is interrupted by the incredible match between Kale and Tora. Tora couldn't help but admit that he was very proud, but it was time to stop playing around. Tora threw his weighted cloak off of his back, his muscles bulging as his aura erupted into a bright blue flame. He took a deep breath, extended his palm out, and taunted the girl into attack. This was Tora's final challenge. It was the moment he had been waiting for. He had accomplished everything he ever wanted, even going as far as defeating Frieza. Now, his job was to leave a lasting legacy, and these two girls would be it. He passed on what he learned. All he had left to do now was show them all he knew. Tora flashed forward, dragging a huge woof of air along with him that dragged a bunch of tournament contestants along with him, even disqualifying 3 of them. Kale managed to stay on her feet, but it forced him on the defensive. Next thing she knew, she was surrounded by multiple Tora clones. She was actually struggling to defend herself and being forced to grab one of the Toras by the face and using him to attack the other ones. But this was merely a distraction, as Tora appeared above Kale with a fist full of bright blue ki. His eyes reflected the faces of his old masters, Whis, Goku, Nail, the Grand Elder, and finally Bardock. Tora pushed his blast forward, utilizing his fallen best friend's technique, the Spirit Cannon. There was a huge explosion that made everyone look back, even Kappa and Vegeta in the middle of their fight. The ground below them cracked, and finally Tora and Kale fell off the edge together. He was very proud of her. With that incredible match, the tournament continued as matchups changed. Caulifla and Fasha wouldn't battle each other until later on. Time passed, with Super Saiyan Blue Fasha helping Gohan defeat Dispo. Sadly, this resulted in Gohan himself being disqualified. Fasha and Piccolo had a great match against Toppo. They knew each other's moves perfectly and were completely in sync. Piccolo was actually one of the most powerful members of Universe 7, thanks to the training he underwent with Beerus. He is comparable to Golden Frieza. To put it into perspective, Vegeta once again sacrifices himself to help Goku battle Jiren, with the last few contestants up being Caulifla, Fasha, Piccolo, 17, Goku, and Jiren. They all did their best to battle against the Mad Titan. Even Caulifla did as much as she could with her Super Saiyan 3. In the end, Piccolo and Goku rushed at Jiren in unison. Piccolo used his stretchable limbs to grab onto Jiren and slam him down into the abyss. To make sure that he goes down, Goku rushed after him with a Kamehameha, but Jiren wasn't about to give up so easily, pushing himself off of the side of the rubble and back onto the stage, where he stopped the Kamehameha by grabbing Goku and Piccolo's faces as he landed. Caulifla and Fasha flew in with a double kick against Jiren's back, crushing the ground beneath them and forcing him to let go of Goku and Piccolo. The three fell into the abyss once more, this time Goku and Piccolo holding onto Jiren with everything they had, dragging him across the tournament rubble. 17 realizes that Jiren is about to set himself free. Thankfully, Fasha was still around. He could be used to win. 17 jumped off the stage at just the right moment to dive headfirst onto Jiren with a palm full of ki. This created a great explosion that sent all 4 fighters flying off into different directions. It was over. Fasha fell over on her back, tired, happy that the battle was over. But she heard someone clear her throat. She sat up and saw that beyond the smoke stood one more person, Caulifla. She was still around. Universe 6 cheered loudly. Fasha cracked her knuckles. It was fitting that the last battle of the tournament would be between two Saiyans, a master and an apprentice. Fasha and Caulifla seemed equally matched. Their moves were near mirrors, but Fasha had one thing that Caulifla was missing: experience. She used everything she learned in her years as a Saiyan soldier to predict her moves. It worked at first, but Caulifla was faster and even more clever. She watched Fasha rush her way with her fist pulled back. Caulifla crossed her arms to block the attack up until Fasha was mere centimeters from reaching her. Caulifla smirked, took a step to the side and stuck her foot out. Fasha tripped over Caulifla's foot and was sent flying directly off of the tournament stage. Everyone gasped, but as Fasha opened her eyes, she realized that Caulifla was holding her hand, saving her from falling. Fasha smiled at Caulifla. She had truly grown into her own since the first time they met, and it had only been a few months. She was nowhere near as powerful as Goku nor Vegeta, but she had grown into a powerful fighter in her own right. Fasha asked Caulifla to keep her promise, and she slapped Caulifla's arm off, falling down. Caulifla was the final person in the tournament arena. Universe 6 had won. As Beerus yelled at Fasha, Tora and the rest of Bardock's squad smiled at Caulifla. Super Shenron was summoned, and Champa tried to yell at Caulifla what the wish should be. It was something dumb, like food, but Caulifla looked at Kappa and Kale with a large smile, telling them that their training was not over. She wished for every universe to be returned, explaining that she didn't do it for them. She just did it because she wanted to continue to get tougher. As all the various universes were brought back, Jiren and Goku promised to battle again. Things were returning to normal, but the Bardock squad had a decision to make. While at Bulma's welcome back party, they gathered around. Tora stood in front of Goku and the rest, explaining to them that they had made a decision. It had been so many years since their planet was destroyed, and now they had found a whole new planet of Saiyans, full of a new generation that they could teach and help create a path for. Long ago, Tora promised himself and Bardock that he would protect his family. But Goku and the others are so much more powerful since then that they haven't been needed in a long time. Thus, the Bardock squad has decided to move to planet Sadala, sure that they would meet again soon. It was bittersweet, but the Z fighters understood. The celebrations went on for a whole day until Whis was ready to take Tora, Shugesh, Fasha, and Borgos to Universe 6. Whis arrived with Vados and Caulifla. Shugesh thanked everyone for making him feel welcomed through these difficult times, giving a big hug to Goku and his family. Borgos made 17 promise him that he would take care of the planet. Fasha approached Piccolo nervously, which surprised the other squad members. They'd never seen her like this before. She tells Piccolo that he doesn't have to come if he doesn't want to. After all, his home is on Earth, and it always has been. That's why she'd understand if he didn't want to leave. But maybe, if he was able to put up with her for all these years, maybe he'd like to join them again. Everyone is quiet for what seems like an eternity, but the silence is then cut by Piccolo chuckling. Piccolo puts his fist up to Fasha's chest, smiling, saying that they still have some training to do together, and that whatever place she's at, he'll feel at home. Everyone starts to clap, with Shugesh whistling. Fasha turns her head to avoid people seeing that she's blushing. Gohan and Videl walk up to Piccolo, giving their farewells and wishing him the best of luck in his new journey. Piccolo bends down to see the little Pan in Videl's arms, and he tells them that he'll come back. He's excited to see just how much the little one has grown. The squad asks Boo if he'd like to come along too, but to their surprise, he says no. He still wants to go explore more of the universe and eat even more tasty food. They all laugh as the Saiyans and Piccolo give him one large group hug, telling him to always be on his best behavior and help everyone in need. They also remind him not to eat too much, which makes Boo laugh. In fact, Beerus tells him that perhaps Boo and him can hang out sometime, discuss which food they like the best. Finally, Tora promises he'd visit, and that they can always count on them to help. He brought Goku and Vegeta in for a hug, whispering to them to be careful. If there are any more Saiyans in the other universes, then there may be more in Universe 7 too. Goku shot them all a thumbs up, and the Z fighters waved them off. Bardock's squad was ready to begin a brand new adventure, and this time they had new allies to train and get stronger with. They knew they didn't have too much longer left, so their quest was simple: leave a lasting legacy, and leave this new set of Saiyans with the training, knowledge, and experience to avoid the mistakes of the past. Tora, Shugesh, Borgos, Fasha, and Bardock would go down in history as the legendary Saiyan squad that led the way for the next generation of warriors. The cosmic cube disappeared as Tora felt a hand on his shoulder. He didn't turn around, but he knew Bardock would always be with them.